All right, I have now hit that live button. I'll give it a moment. That is the moment. Welcome, everyone. This is Andres Restart. I am joined by my good friend Rob from Rule to Review.
Hello.
Hello there. His channel
Hello
is
there.
linked in the description below. And you may be familiar with him, you may not be. And if you're not, you should definitely check his channel out. It is linked in the description below, as I just said. And yeah, he talks about Nintendo and other things, but oftentimes
sure
Nintendo-related things.
Yep. I sure do. Yeah. Do you want me to talk about
Go
the
for
Nintendo
it.
thing?
Yeah, go for
Okay.
it. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because we've done this podcast together so many times. I know you have a lot of other guests, but Andres and I have done this many, many times. But yeah, my channel it's a Nintendo channel. It's a gaming channel. It's a Metroid channel, I think is a fair assessment because I spend so much time talking about and theorizing about and speculating about Metroid and predicting and waiting for all things Metroid. But obviously, I mean, Zelda's been such the hot topic the past couple of months, right? So it's a super exciting time because that game is like just a hair over 1 month away. And it looks so great. You know, we know that there's weird haters and detractors out there, and that's what
There
it
always
and that's
is.
fine. There always is. You're right, but I'm super pumped for it, and I know you're super pumped for it. So yeah, so that's I do a lot of the same kind of stuff that I think Andres does on his channel. Which
Absolutely.
is why we became good buddies. I think Andres' channel is one of the best out there. So
Thank you. That is it's an honor hearing that from you because before I would say when I was still kind of like starting out, I would watch you before like I was just like a fan, right? And then one day I saw you're watching my videos and like, oh cool, and then we just started chatting. But it's pretty cool because both Rob and I actually hit 20,000 subscribers this past weekend around the same time. So kind of a cool little moment, especially because our channels are so comparable. If you are a big Zelda fan, if you are a big Metroid fan, if you enjoy just kind of like long form discussion and really kind of being analytical and being thoughtful about what may happen and considering multiple perspectives, which is also something that I would say is unusual. Not everyone considers alternate perspectives, and you do a great job of offering things from multiple takes, which I always appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that too, as we sit here and compliment each other, as
Yeah.
we like to do. But I mean, I just appreciate you mentioning the thoughtfulness and the analytical part, and as you mentioned, considering multiple angles, because I think that's one of the reasons when I found your channel when you were much smaller, like you said, this was a couple years ago. I think you had 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers or something, which isn't nothing, but smaller obviously to where
It's all
you are
relative.
now. It's all relative, and that's just one of the things that I really enjoyed about your discussion, and I try to bring that to my discussions around gaming stuff, and 98% Nintendo, definitely, which is what I do. And yeah, so it feels good to hear people kind of say that what you think you're putting out there is what other people are taking away from it. I think you're great at it. That's why I think you're one of the few gaming channels that I listen to regularly. And so, yeah. And like you said, we did both just hit 20,000 subscribers, which is amazing. Our stories are different. Yours is very impressive because I think you did it in about half the time it took my channel, which is incredible. I think, probably 4, 5, 6 or some odd years. I am currently in my 10th year on YouTube. So I'm an old school guy who goes back to like when the Wii U was pretty new, when I first started making videos. Right before the PS4 and Xbox One launched, I think. So the Wii U was less than a year old when I started posting. I think Mario 3D World and Pikmin 4 or Pikmin 3 were like right around the corner, and the launch of the PS4 and the Xbox One when I first started my channel. And I've always had steady growth, but very slow. I don't think I've ever been meant to become a really huge channel. But yours, you've seen such incredible growth the last year, I think, and then for sure the last few months. And I did too. I saw a huge boom in this first kind of quarter of the year, but yours I think has been twice as much. And so you're probably surpassing me in subs right now, and I just think it's incredible because your content's awesome and you just deserve the success. And it's really cool that I think in the same weekend, last weekend, we both fighted across that milestone. So what a time,
Yeah, I mean, I think I started doing the full-time YouTuber effort, right? I like to say I put in full-time effort because it is currently my job. We'll see how long I can do it for. I'll say that I have been pretty fortunate. People have been enjoying my content and sticking around, and I have a legitimate hope to call this my career. You know, I think I could be heading. I mean, I feel that I am heading in that direction. I'm optimistic. You know, so I make videos every day, and it's
Every
great.
day.
Yeah. Sometimes it's challenging. It is challenging to get a video out every single day, because you'll have those days where your brain's a little mush, but you know.
Oh yeah, it's like any job, you know. That's the thing I think people don't consider. It's like, is making videos and running a YouTube channel like super difficult? I mean, depending on how you do it, maybe. Like if you're like an angry video game nerd kind of production. But if you're like what we do, it's not the hardest thing, but at the same time, what I've told people before is that it still requires time. It's definitely like a time dedication, and it's a mental dedication. It's like you're saying, if you're having a slow day, or if you're sick, or if you're just tired or whatever, it's, you still have to be like, okay, do I feel like I have the energy to make a video? Is there a topic I find interesting enough to talk about for 15 or 20 minutes, whatever? Like you said, another great thing you pointed out was the long form discussions I think we have, and that's my favorite kind of YouTube content too, is long form stuff. And so, yeah, it seems like you're doing a great job, man. I just love to see it. I hope you just keep on going, you know? And yeah, I just think it's great.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. But yeah, I mean, tonight, you know, we're gonna talk about Zelda. We're gonna talk about Metroid. We're going to talk about Mario and other things Nintendo. I mean, Rob and I are kind of into the exact same things. Like, I would, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm gonna say 5 video topics and tell me they're not also your 5 favorite video topics. And if I'm okay with being, it's okay if I'm wrong. That's fine. But I feel like I'll be close. Metroid, Zelda,
Yes.
Switch 2, Donkey Kong, Mario.
So Mario, yes. I mean, I love Donkey Kong. It's not, I wouldn't say it's my favorite video topic, but I mean, it's one of my favorite franchises. So that counts because it falls under that really excellent first-party Nintendo franchise.
Yeah.
I think that within the next year, we'll probably all be having a lot of Donkey Kong stuff to talk about. So if that happens, then we'll be really doing the Donkey Kong.
Maybe that's me anticipating a little bit. Maybe.
It could be. It could be.
Yeah.
And for sure, I think something is probably coming soonish. I know the big difference is that you're also a big Pokemon fan, which I'm really not. That's the one difference.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'll also full transparency. I love Pokemon, but my viewership does not love Pokemon as much. Whenever I make Pokemon, it doesn't perform as well as my other videos, which means I probably should just make more Pokemon videos to bring in more Pokemon fans. But
maybe.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I guess I probably wouldn't have noticed that simply because through no one's fault. I just don't really, the Pokemon stuff, if it goes through the feed, I don't even like notice it. So I haven't seen that. I know your Zelda stuff is doing incredible.
Yeah.
It's where Pokemon is a huge franchise with a huge fan base. I find that very surprising.
I don't know. It's just like, I think YouTube just marks, oh, he did Pokemon. Okay, only a small percentage of people are going to see it. Like, because it is based off the algorithm.
It is. And
yeah.
YouTube is the all-seeing god of everything that happens, man. They can determine what they do and don't want to go in different directions for sure.
Yeah. Before we go further, I'm pretty sure things are fine, but I want to double check. Guys, how does Rob sound? How does the background music sound? How do I sound? Does it sound balanced? Is there anything we can adjust a little bit now that we're still fairly early on? Please let me know. And by the way, I'll read a few chats, but I'm going to prioritize just kind of like the discussion between Rob and I, because we're going to focus kind of just talking about the different things within a little bit under 90 minutes. And then afterwards, Rob's got to go, and then I'll kind of do maybe like 20-ish minutes of Q&A before we call it a night. But it seems like everything sounds good, so that is awesome. Thank you everyone in the chat, super appreciated. Yeah, I mean, let's just jump into it. You know, the one thing I want to talk to you about, and I had messaged you about this the other day, right? I put out a video about it publicly, so I think it's fair to talk about it. You know, I can't speak on where I heard it from, how I heard it, but just that I heard something that I trust, and what that is that Metroid Prime 4 is done. Now, what does done mean? I think there's some room for interpretation there, but I think done basically means it is, in theory, within a year of release. So that's what I heard. I know it is like a situation of source, dude, trust me, bro, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I would
No,
like to
that's
think that people trust me. I wouldn't lie just for the sake of it. I don't need to. But that is what I heard. And Rob, when you hear that, what does that make you think? Like, are you skeptical? Are you thinking, that lines up with what I've been speculating on?
Well, I don't know if I would use the word skeptical, because I've always believed and understood that Metroid Prime 4, I really don't think it's as far off as people have been wanting to claim. And I've even joked about in some of my conversations about Metroid Prime 4 that because of the rocky development and because of the silence for 6 years, technically 4 years, but 6 years since the reveal, I think people have gotten it into their head, this kind of notion that, oh, the game is 100 years away and we're never going to see it, almost as if it doesn't exist. And I've always pushed back on that, saying, you guys, just because we have had silence, and the silence is frustrating for sure, it's not like the game hasn't been being made. And something I've touched on a lot recently too is that, the version of Metroid Prime 4 that we'll be releasing, whenever it is, if it's in this next year, which I think very much has merit, or if it's later or whatever, it's not the version of started in 2017. It's the version that was restarted in 2019 when they gave it to Retro Studios, back to Retro Studios, right? So it's not a 6-year development that we're in, it's like a 4-year development. But 4 years is a long time to work on any kind of game. If it's a Zelda game, a Metroid game, a Grand Theft Auto game.
Hey, Rob, sorry to interrupt you, but is it possible to raise your volume just a little bit?
Oh yeah, am I quiet?
A little bit. You're audible, but people
Okay.
are saying that I just sound a little bit louder.
Yeah, honestly, too, guys, we had that problem before. Andres was worried that my volume was low, so let me.
I can hear you fine, just for the record. And
That's good
I
to
think I
know.
think the difference is subtle. So if you can just bump it a little, we'll be perfect.
What if I'm checking? Did that make any difference? Hopefully, volume
Yeah,
of my voice.
I think you sound good. Yeah, they're saying that the difference is also not that big of a deal. So
Okay, well that's good to know.
yeah,
I can also keep my mouth this much closer to my microphone.
I
'cause
mean
this
whatever's
will probably
comfortable
help.
for you.
Okay, I don't mind as long as I
Okay.
don't become too loud all of a sudden.
Nah, I'm very
Um,
loud, so
Yeah,
But,
it's mixing volumes and,
yeah.
and a whole thing, So anyway, I was kind of rambling, so it's a good reason to filter me to the end of my point. Point is, we're dealing with the 4-year development version of that game, and so per your rumor, the discussions and what you've heard and what's out there, the reason I was going down that kind of diatribe is that I do think that the game very likely is sooner than people could think. I think this year is very much a possibility before 2023 is over. It's not my prediction. I don't know how that feeds into the stuff that you and I talked, like you said, about what you heard. So I'm still leaning towards a 2024 release, but a 2023 reveal. However, to your point, I do think the game is way farther along than people think. So whatever discussions are going around behind the scenes, I think there could be something to it. I just really do. So
Yeah, and something I want to clarify is just because it's done, whatever done means, that doesn't mean it comes out this year, right? It could come out next year. We have proof that Nintendo holds back on games sometimes for a couple years. We saw evidence that they rated, if I'm not mistaken, Metroid Prime Remastered in Germany as early as summer 2021. So that means the game was content complete more than a year and a half ago, and they only came out with it last February. So that's just one example. There's others. Like for example, Fire Emblem, although we don't have evidence of it, it was rumored for over a year, and it came out very quickly. I'm sure, and I could think of other examples. Actually, I think we heard an interview about this one. For Mario Odyssey, I think we had heard early on in the Switch lifecycle, like the beginning of 2017, they could have come out with it towards launch, but they decided to just hold it back, optimize a little bit, and release it for the holiday because they had other games set lined up for the beginning of the year, like Breath of the Wild. So yeah, Nintendo holds back on games sometimes, purely not even just because of how they want to position things. So Prime 4, if they don't think it makes sense for this year, even if it's done, they're not going to release it this year.
Well, when you bring up the idea of how and when they want to position a completed version of the game, or even a near completed version, because I think you're right. I mean, the game might be close to done, but still 6 months away from actual like going gold or whatever. But what's another reason why they would sit on that game potentially in terms of positioning? And to me, that could be if it's meant to release with another piece of hardware that we don't yet know about. So if there's any truth to that maybe happening next year, which is all speculation, I know we all kind of think it's going to happen, but it is speculation to be fair. I mean, maybe they would sit on that version or sit on the reveal of that game until they are ready to. That's been part of my speculation in the past as well, is they might want to tie the reveal of Metroid Prime 4 to also revealing the next console, the next Switch or whatever. So I've thought that for a while. I don't know how that kind of jives with your thoughts and predictions. I've heard some of them before. We've talked about it before. What do you think about it?
Well, the problem is it's not, none of it's a problem. It's just kind of like trying to figure out what is they're going to do, because it just kind of seems like they have options, right? Like, I believe Metroid Prime 4 is close to completion. I also believe there is a 3D Mario game that is close to completion. And I also believe that there is a pretty substantial Donkey Kong game that's close to completion, perhaps. And I also think there's a Nintendo Switch 2 that's close to completion as well. So how do all those line up? That's a tough call. But I have to think that they're all related in some way. Am I saying that all three are going to be launch titles? No. But I do have to think that Nintendo must be thinking, okay, all of these games are going to appeal to our core fan base very much post Tears of the Kingdom. They're thinking about what's going to keep the hype cycle going after Tears of the Kingdom. And so they're probably thinking, okay, how can we space out these big games to maximize our momentum, maximize our sales, and transition over to what's next for us? Like, I think that's all in the conversation for Nintendo, and there may not even be a set plan yet. They may still be talking about it behind the scenes. It may not be set in stone.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
So
when you say that maybe they probably wouldn't be launch games, do you think that list of games could maybe be launch year games? Because that's something I've thought about. You know.
I think all three games are coming out in less than 2 years from today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that to me jives with just, again, what we know was only speculation.
Right.
You know, like
yeah.
All speculation, but I absolutely think
I lost you for a second. Lost you for a second.
Crapping out on us. Is it struggling, or how is it?
Okay, you came right back.
No.
You're good.
Did I come back?
Yeah, you're good.
I was saying I'm worried my internet might be struggling, so I'm curious if that's.
I lost you for like 30 seconds. Like, you sound like a robot, but you're back now. So what as you were saying?
Well, I was talking about the Nintendo probably wanting to repeat. I don't know if you guys had heard this. Repeat the 2017 launch year of the Switch.
We missed
by
that
having
part.
A lot of game.
Yeah.
Okay. That's something that I believed in for a long time. So we're at the point in the Switch's life where we're releasing potentially a new Donkey Kong, a new Mario, and Metroid Prime 4, a new Mario Kart, which is a big one I think about a lot too. You know, releasing that on just the Switch maybe doesn't make sense, because they could have those games ready to fill up the first full year of the Switch too, right? I mean, if a new Mario and Metroid Prime 4 and Donkey Kong even, if those three games are in the first year of a Switch 2, that's a great lineup, and I think they'll set themselves up well. So I think about that a lot.
Yeah. By the way, Super Chris, thank you for modding, but I do want to point out there are no spoilers being discussed. So anyone worried about spoilers, do not worry. No spoilers here tonight. Unless you consider speculation of what the next Nintendo game is as a spoiler. It's not. So, no, we're not going to be talking about Mario movie spoilers. I will talk about the Mario movie a little bit later, but I won't be spoiling anything. So don't worry. But I do see about 120-ish people. Go on. What?
I said, and I also haven't seen it, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, don't worry. We're not going to spoil it. And don't put spoilers in the chat, please.
Yeah.
But anyways, I do see that a little bit close to about 120ish people are watching, which is amazing. Thank you guys for watching. If you could like the stream and see we're around 40, if we get to 100 likes, that would be incredible. It helps the stream out a lot. So thank you very much. I do want to briefly check the super chat. It's kind of relevant to what we're talking about, Rob. Samuel A with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. Well, it might be on topic now, but Samuel says, off topic to your discussion, but do you think Nintendo's next console will have more of that Nintendo charm with menus and the shop, etc.? And I think a little bit yes, because I have a feeling that the Switch 2, that's what we call it for now. We don't know what it'll actually be called, but I think because it's going to be more of a sequel, and that's my assumption, I don't know, but based off how Nintendo typically follows their generations, if they have a successful generation, they go with something similar for the next one. I think they're going to do some things to kind of differentiate a little bit. So I'll say a little bit more charm, as you put it, is a little bit more likely because it is more of a direct sequel kind of system. I speculate.
Yes. Yeah, I certainly would like to see it. I know a lot of people want that. I will say I don't personally need it, but I think that kind of like you're saying, Andres, I could see them sort of meeting in the middle and adding a couple of flares, like people miss themes and music and stuff, right? When you're navigating the menus.
Yeah.
I think if they're smart, they do something really basic and add those two things, and I think that would help. But I also think there's a great chance that they follow in line with the simplicity of the Switch, because I do think that in a lot of ways works for them. They probably saved a little bit of money and manpower by not including a lot of fancy bells and whistles in the menu. I mean, I can't imagine it costs that much to do that stuff. But the Wii U, which I love, pour one out for the Wii U. It didn't do well, but I love it. It was bursting at the seams with personality and that charm, right? I mean, all over the place. Every menu, everything. You have the Waru Waru Plaza. You've got the Miiverse. You've got all the sounds and tons of it was great. But it's also like, how functional is it? And I think Nintendo was like, we need to get so far away from this, sadly. We need to get so far away from this. Here is the most bare bones, boring menu. Just boom. It's just here and it just exists. So I would like to think, kind of like you said, they maybe add in some of that stuff, but I also kind of think they might stay simple too. So maybe they balance.
You know, I was just earlier today, you know, I was watching, we were talking about how I don't watch a lot of movies earlier, but my dad's been kind of rewatching Harry Potter, so I was sitting down with him for a little bit. And like he had accidentally like shut down the HBO Max app, and then tried to get back into it, but the TV was kind of like lagging a little bit, and I was like, why is this lagging? It's just opening an app. That shouldn't be complicated. And then I consider the Switch, which is a small tablet device, which came out, I'm pretty sure, way before that TV. And yet it's so snappy and so fluid, and it runs games. You know,
awesome.
And the thing is, most devices are like that TV. There's nothing wrong with the TV, but you know, there are a lot of devices that they're not quick. They're not snappy. Because they have all these different like cool UI things that they want to pizzazz it up, and we like the pizzazz. We enjoy that, but there's an advantage to the Switch being very simple. When you click something, it does it. There's no lag. There's no delay. It's just there, done, here you go, all the time.
It's true, man. And I play on my PlayStation 5 a lot. I don't know if you have a PlayStation yourself. I
have a PlayStation 4. I haven't upgraded to PS5 yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so the menus are still similar. Like, it's the general idea. And like, I love my PlayStation 5. I have a Series X too. I have nothing to play on it right now. And like, I love my PlayStation 5, but I tell you, I enjoy the experience even without the music and the themes and stuff. I enjoy the experience of popping that Switch on and thinking about it way less. And the PS5 is also itself, it's pretty streamlined, it's pretty quick, the menu, it's easy to navigate, but there's so much more going on. I would say for every 5 seconds you're in the Switch menu, you're probably like 30 seconds in like the PS5 menu. It's a weird kind of ratio, but that's just kind of how my brain breaks it down. So it's still quick and efficient, but the Switch is like, no pun intended. I did not even mean to do that, but the Switch is literally like this. It's so fast. And I love that about it.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. Like, when I think on it, they probably had that in mind. You know, maybe the reason why they haven't done anything sort of extra is because they don't want to compromise the speed. Because you think about what the Switch is, the idea is to just pick it up and go. Switch. It's supposed to be quick, like a switch, and that's what it does. So when you click on something, it's very clicky. That's another thing, actually. Think about the UI. When there are sounds, right? It's very clicky.
Yeah,
it's very
little beat.
right. It's in a nice, subtle but satisfying way,
I like it. Yeah,
and it just gets the job done. So if it was like if there was a lot going on, it was kind of slowed down, it wasn't very quick and responsive, it would sort of go against the overall design philosophy for what the Switch is when you really kind of break it down like that. So if for Switch 2 they do add extra pizzazz, I hope it's not, I'll say this, like, even though I like all the Wii U stuff, I love the GameCube intro, I love all that extra cool things, like that's amazing, but what's better is what the Switch is, I'd argue. So if you can find a way to add some of that extra little pizzazz without compromising on the speed, go for it. But if you have to sacrifice the speed, the snappiness, at the end of the day, it's a novelty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you actually brought up a really great point that I never considered, and maybe smarter tech people out there have already talked about this or know it. But I wonder if part of the reason, because you talk about they don't want to sacrifice the simplicity and the speed, which I agree with, right? But when you think about the fact that the Switch, because like you said, it's designed to just be, docked and undocked, and within a second, it's on a screen or it's in your hand and back and forth again. I wonder if the simplicity of the UI helps that switching transition from back and forth. And that I just wonder from a design standpoint, and again, I am way too stupid to know tech stuff, so I could be way off base. I'm not a techie guy, but I could see that being one of the reasons they went with the simple stuff, and maybe they've ignored everyone's pleas for themes and music for years because they're like, you guys don't understand, and they would never say this, you guys don't understand, if we start doing that stuff, maybe to the current Switch, it's going to slow everything down, and your docking and undocking will get slower. So granted, with the Switch 2, if it's a hybrid and with more power, maybe they could add that and not compromise the speed. But maybe with the 2017 Switch, that's the issue. I mean, I'm just guessing. I don't know if you have any tech thoughts on that or not, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm also not a tech genius, so, yeah. It is my speculation that is the reason why. And it wasn't really worth the change. It's one of those... it's kind of funny. As a lot of you know, I tend to go on Nintendo Prime's podcast every Wednesday, and one day he had actually Kit and Krista on. You guys may be familiar with Kit and Krista from the Nintendo Minute. They used to be the Nintendo Minute hosts, and they had them on, so I got to meet them through there, which is pretty cool. But the show was a little bit more concise that day, so we didn't really kind of ramble, right? So I didn't go over all of my thought processes, right? But a little, as a joke, there was a topic about what kind of features we would want for Switch 2, and as a joke, I said, "Oh, I want themes," right? Which I do want themes, but they took that and ran with it, and apparently on their own podcast, they were laughing on how. Not in a bad way, but apparently they thought it was really funny how I really wanted themes. And I think the belief is that I want more than anything else for the Switch 2 to have themes. That's what I want the big upgrade to be. And
that's the whole thing.
In truth, it's one I would like to see it, but I will take better visuals, better frame rate, better battery, a really cool gimmick, better haptic feedback over themes any day.
It sounds like it was just an offhanded thing. You're like, oh, and this laundry list of things in my brain, I'm in sure themes, and it sounds like it got kind of targeted and
because I chose that as the first one, and I didn't get to any of the other things I wanted to say. So
should have said that graphics. Should have said graphics.
I should have. Although I was remembered because I said themes. Everyone would have said graphics. So
That's true. Well, and man, people do want themes. They just do. The 3DS had... the Wii and the Wii U didn't have themes, but the 3DS had themes. And that was cool. I'm not like a themes guy. My PS5, I don't put any themes on it, but people love that stuff. And everyone pokes fun at it's just black and white. That's all we've ever had for the themes, And so, to be fair, it's just a thing that a lot of people care about, even if they don't realize that it's probably not the most important thing. And I'll even say, I don't need themes, but if they were there, I'd be like, okay, that's cool. Let me see the Metroid theme. That's what I'm going to use, of course, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but kind of going back to the just like Switch 2 stuff. Like, let me ask you, right? There's been a lot of rumors going around. All right, there's this rumor. I haven't looked into the rumor myself yet. There's been a few rumors going around that don't seem to have a lot of hard credence quite yet, so it's hard to say for sure. But there's this rumor going around that the Switch 2 will be about the power of a PS4, which, from what I've heard of some things, makes sense. Nothing, that just public stuff. But but there's also talk of it coming out this year. There was a code name Hawk. I don't know how true that is. Yeah, I think that the idea behind this particular rumor is that it's supposedly coming from the same person that was behind the Pokemon leak, but that is not verified. So that's why I don't really put too much stock into it. I think the Pokemon leak is a pretty good rumor, like one that I think may be true, or at least has truth in it. But because it hasn't been verified that it's the same person, I don't put as much credence into this rumor. But anyways, the rumor is Switch 2, as powerful as a PS4, comes out this year. Codename is Hawk. Not that really matters, but that's what the rumor included, I believe. What do you make of it?
Well, I don't know if I put much stock into the Hawk thing.
Yeah.
The way I've seen that circulate, I don't know if there's much to that. The PS4 power thing, I think, to me, makes a lot of sense. When it comes to, again, that rumor, that's just really tough to say. I don't know that I really believe any of that stuff. You mentioned the Pokemon person, and here's the thing. I didn't watch the Pokemon presentation, but when I followed that story and I understood how accurate that person was, that was pretty interesting. I think the verbiage that they use about the graphics upgrade and all that stuff, there's a lot to it that's very cool, but I don't know if it's as concrete as a lot of us want it to be. But as far as the idea of the next console releasing this year, I mean, I've been riding the 2023 train for a couple of years myself. I've kind of was able to target this as like a big year, 2022 or 23, and obviously nothing happened in 2022. But I've been targeting this as like a window of time where I was like, I could see the Switch starting to get to its waning years. I think Nintendo, this has been a linchpin to my guesses for a while, is that Nintendo doesn't want sales to die completely and try to bring it back up. They want to hopefully ride momentum. And so I think right now, 2023 is this perfect bridging year. But I will also say, I don't think that releasing the console is mandatory to make it a bridge year as much as revealing the console. If they're gonna release it this year, I think we'd all be in agreement that by like June they'd have to like tell us about it and show it to us like pretty in depth, like with a 5-minute trailer, right? Like they did with the Switch or whatever.
I might disagree.
You do disagree? Well, okay. Well,
just a little.
So do you think?
Go on.
Do you think that they could reveal it closer? Is that what you're thinking? They could do like a 3-month window?
I think Nintendo has continually surprised us at how quick of a turnaround they can really have. So, while I would agree that they should announce a Switch 2 by, say, June for a October-November release, it wouldn't totally shock me if they waited till, say, maybe August. Now, I mean,
Well, okay. Well, I didn't know if you were gonna go, so I didn't want to cut you off.
No, that's okay.
But I will say what I like about your phrasing is that it wouldn't shock you, and I think I would agree with that. It wouldn't shock me more than just the initial like, oh my god, they actually did this.
Yeah.
But I think pretty quickly it would be like, oh, okay, that's Nintendo's just doing weird stuff now,
right?
And they're approaching things differently. So, in that sense, I think I would agree. It maybe wouldn't shock me once the initial surprise of it wore off. But I mean, if I was a betting man, I would still bet on that 6-month window. I think that works really well for them with the Switch. Yeah. So all the options are on the table. I mean, gosh, would I like to see it this year? Sure. You get your biggest game out with Zelda. And, we cannot sleep on Pikmin 4. It's going to be amazing. People keep forgetting about it.
I
agree.
Going
to rule. Cannot wait for that game.
Me too.
But it's not Yeah, but it's not a Zelda, right? So Zelda's your linchpin for the year. You get that out right at the end of the first half of the year. And the whole back half is the mystery. I think you and I have talked about this on our own videos quite a bit the past few weeks. The back half is a mystery. E3's canceled. Nintendo, we don't know if they're doing anything. So I think that they could very likely be leaving that 6-month runway from the whole back half of the year to reveal and or release the next thing. And I think there could be value in if they even just reveal it over the holiday, and they might not have a big game or a new console to release this holiday, but I think that hype could still be part of what keeps Nintendo's brand strong, even without any new games. Yeah, and they release it in the first half of next year. Now, the discussions are saying it's a PS4 Pro power, and it might come out this year. I think it's all possible.
What I read was PS4 non-Pro power.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. That seems, I mean, we can't say, I guess, but I will just say that it's, in a world where that was true, I don't really believe that, but if it was true, I mean, it'd be kind of disappointing, I think. Because I think my guess is that a PS4 powered Switch wouldn't be able to play games that the current Switch can't really find a way to work, right? And I've long said that the main defining factor between this Switch and a next-gen Switch is if this other device, even if it's backwards compatible, can play games that this one can't get anymore. Sure. And it starts to build an exclusive library because it's powerful enough that this one is not able to do it. So that's what I think a PS4 Pro power could maybe be that.
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts.
You know, again, I'm not a massive tech head. But, you know, I've talked to some people who consider themselves more tech heads, right? And from what I've sort of come to understand, like, for example, there's this rumor that a Tegra 239 would be like the chipset for Switch, and in terms of like raw processing power, like teraflops, it would be in the PS4 base family, that the T239, which I don't know if that's part of the same rumor that came out like this week, but
sure don't know.
But I think the raw power is a little misleading because it does not account for how more efficient it is because it's newer hardware, or, for example, this new technology we keep talking about, DLSS. So, like, imagine a PS4 that can do DLSS. All of a sudden, all of its games that are sub 1080p, you know, they could target a lower resolution, have a better frame rate, but because of DLSS, it actually turns that lower resolution that has a better frame rate to a high resolution while still having a high frame rate. So it's almost like because of DLSS, they get a lot more bang for the buck for the same power level. So this is Dragon Ball numbers now. But anyways, point is, I'm just saying that even if it was PS4 power with DLSS, if that's integrated into the system, then its actual output would be a lot better than a PS4.
So it's all great points, and I think that one thing we have to consider is optimization for sure. So you take the power, if it's this Tegra chip, whatever, 1937, I don't know what any of that stuff means. I just know Tegra. So if it's this exact chip that you're talking about that I think the leak or the rumor is discussing, you put it in the hands of Nintendo. They use DLSS to improve the performance, the resolution, maintain the frame rate, and all that stuff. And you maximize it around your own architecture and your own game development, which Nintendo has been working magic on their hardware for decades anyway. You for sure can get some amazing stuff that probably would look better than PS4 quality. So I like that idea, and it feels feasible. The only question I would still be left with, and maybe you or I are not the people to answer this question, but the question I'm still left with is, okay, does that then mean that by the time a game like Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, does this less powerful Tegra that Nintendo can work magic with and use DLSS to, you know, artificially improve the resolution, which is fine. Right. I don't mind if it's artificial if it looks good. But if that's all it's doing...
That's what graphics are, right? It's all an illusion.
100%. You got... Yeah, we're in a bubble, man.
Yeah.
But I think the question is that chip, if it's still technically not in a higher level of capability, when a game like Elder Scrolls 6 comes out in 5 years... does that chip allow the Switch 2 to play that kind of a game? Or Grand Theft Auto 6? Games that I think we'd like to see Nintendo be able to also have on their platform. And again, I don't know the answer. Maybe it would if they're using their own tricks and DLSS is part of it. But I just kind of, when I think about that stuff as a non-tech head, I just wonder if the biggest benefit there is improving Nintendo's games and improving their prior released Switch games. I don't know. That's kind of the question I'm left with. So maybe
Yeah.
people in the chat know more. I don't know, and they can tell us if I'm right or wrong. But I think about that.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is that I also kind of like don't. I wonder how important it is to get those kinds of games, and I want them, right? Like my dream scenario
Good
here.
question. It's a very good question.
Yeah, my dream scenario is that Resident Evil 4 remake and Elden Ring get ported to Switch 2, maybe with like some additional skins or something this holiday. That would be an amazing launch incentive. It would be amazing. I would love to get those versions, portable versions that look and run well on a Switch 2. Like that would be amazing. And maybe we do get them because it would be the beginning of the system's life cycle. But say after a couple years, it's kind of this basically what the Switch situation, right? Like it gets some big AAA games, but it's a couple years after it's already been out, and it's required the magic of some amazing team.
Don't we want to get away from that stuff? I mean, we love Nintendo and the Switch here, of course, but like, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but like, I just love what you're saying, because don't we want to move away from that stuff? So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, like, do what I want, right? I mean, what I want is, I want it all, but the reality of the situation is, look at how successful the Switch is. Do they need to do that? You know.
Yep.
So I'm not so sure. I will say that I do feel, and it's so strange being on the internet. By the way, I love you guys that watch me. Thank you. But sometimes, I feel like I might sound too positive as a Nintendo fan because I try to focus on the positive things. But occasionally, I try to show that I'm genuine by noting things that I'm not positive on. Right?
By being critical. Yeah,
by being critical. But the thing is, regardless of what I do, I will get attacked for it. So, what I'm about to say, just keep in mind, I love the game. I think it's going to be the GOAT. But Tears of the Kingdom, I do kind of look at it and I'm like, this looks pretty... And I've been analyzing footage. I mean, you see half my content, if not more, is Tears of the Kingdom. And I'm slow. I take a little bit more time to edit my videos. Not saying I'm the best editor out there, but I spend hours on every video, right? So I'm looking at this stuff. Thank you. Yeah. Point is, I look at this footage a lot, and I think it looks amazing, but I also think, we waited 6 years for this much of a graphical improvement, which is not really a noticeable improvement. There's a lot of amazing things going on, physics, there's so much. And I think when we actually have the game in our hands, we're still going to think it looks and plays amazing. Like, I think I'm going to play Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm still going to feel it looks better than Breath of the Wild just because of the extra scope and the new vistas and stuff. But I still think, especially, and the demonstration may have had some compression problems, but I still wonder, this is because the Switch is old technology, right? Like, this is where we're at. What would happen if, like, there was a Zelda game made grounded for PlayStation 5? How would that look? And we're not going to find out probably for another decade. So, that comes up, right? And I bring up this topic just to kind of illustrate the point that even if Nintendo doesn't care too much about modernizing their hardware for third parties, at some point they're going to want to modernize their hardware for their own devs. Because there's different teams at Nintendo that make different decisions. I bet if it was down to the developers themselves, they'd be like, yeah, give us more. We'd love to be able to do more with our games. The fact that the Zelda team can do what they can do with the hardware they've had is incredible. They're innovating in terms of gameplay that most devs didn't even think would be possible for the hardware. So it's amazing, but I'm sure they want them to do more. I'm sure the Zelda team would love to have more powerful hardware so they can have even crazier physics with even better draw distances, with even more going on in the world. So,
Yeah, it's a great comparison too. And I think that we know Tears of the Kingdom. Something I've brought up recently is that it's definitely the kind of game where it looks great because the art style of Breath of the Wild just is by default a great art style. And that game, the Breath of the Wild, it still looks great from that lens when you turn it on. I myself have been playing it a lot on and off between Resident Evil 4 Remake and Breath of the Wild the past few weeks. And it's like, I turn it on, I'm like, man, sometimes this game still looks gorgeous. And then other times I'm like, yeah, but it is also 2017 Breath of the Wild. It was made for the Wii U, and so it is what it is. Tears of the Kingdom is going to be pushing, I think, the Switch to its limits, and I think it will look better. But yeah, I think you're right. And I even mentioned in my own video, it's like, I think people have to come to terms with the fact that the game isn't, the changes in Tears of the Kingdom is not about how much better it looks from Breath of the Wild. It looks like Breath of the Wild. It's going to look a little better. Draw distance is clearly stronger. I think you pointed that out as well. And that stuff is fantastic, especially because of the sky stuff. But this is it. This is like what the Switch can do. And it is magic on that hardware for sure. But I think the larger conversation, I think it comes down to the age-old topic of, does Nintendo truly need third parties to be successful or not? Do they want third parties to be successful? Do they actually care about catering to them with their hardware decisions? And when they do upgrade to the next thing, is that part of their consideration or not? It's a conversation, a debate we've all had for a long time. And it's a worthy question, and you can't deny, and as you just said, the Switch has been so successful on its own right without really catering to third parties. But it has catered to third parties a little bit. And I think that it's worth noting that during the Switch era, really like starting right before the Switch was revealed and into the first year or two, a lot of the leadership of Nintendo as a whole has changed. And I think that their philosophies have changed a little bit as well. And this could be something as simple as, we don't care if people upload YouTube content anymore. That was a massive, smart business decision, and I think it aided in the Switch's success compared to the Wii U, where, and I can tell you because I was a Nintendo creator during the Wii U years, there was the creator program, and it was like not creator friendly and not gamer friendly. And I think that, I'm not going to say that's the reason the Wii U didn't do well necessarily. There are a lot of factors, but that kind of that philosophy can change how things play out. And so I think a lot of things have changed in the Switch era. And in the Switch era, we've seen games like The Witcher, we've seen games like Doom, we've seen games like the first Dark Souls. I mean, when you think about it, you could probably go through a list of some of these games. Overwatch, Diablo,
Alien Isolation.
Alien Isolation. I mean, tons. You could just Resident Evil 7 and Control at the cloud versions. Like, so to me, that just shows me that Nintendo and maybe this newer leadership and their philosophy, I don't think they want to let go of the unique qualities of Nintendo. But I think there's a chance they do care a bit, just enough about third parties, that they might consider them going forward. So does that factor into the design decisions and the power decisions for their future hardware? I hope it does a little bit. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the Harry Potter game that just came out, it's not even out yet. Like, it's not
for
out,
Switch,
but it just came for Switch. Yeah, it's not out for Switch yet.
Yeah.
And that's a huge game. A lot of people are enjoying, and that's just one of many games that does that. So can Nintendo actually survive without third parties? Yes. Can they do really well without third parties? Yes, we've seen evidence. But I think that they will care more and more about what the industry is doing and these other companies and developers. And truthfully, even Nintendo wins if they can get the next Doom day and date, and Elder Scrolls day and date, and Grand Theft Auto day and date, Witcher 4 or whatever. Elden Ring 2, if that happens. Like, it would be great if they could compete in that arena. So, yeah, a lot of thoughts there, but that's kind of how I break it down.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. There's a lot. By the way, guys, I'm focusing on just kind of like having a discussion right now. We'll do more Q&A at the end for those curious, right? Like in about 35 minutes or so, we'll start doing Q&A. But I do want to transition, unless there's something else you want to say on the subject, for sure. I mean, we can go back and forth. That's not a problem with me. But, I do want to take at least some time to kind of focus on Tears of the Kingdom, right? So we've touched on it throughout tonight already, but like just from the gameplay demonstration, how did you feel about it? Like, what you saw there? Did it leave you more impressed, same level, mind blown, slightly disappointed? Where you at?
Well, definitely not disappointed. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
You mean it's more than just DLC?
Yeah, shocker.
Oh, okay.
I know. Who saw that coming? You know, and I mean, I know that's such a big conversation out there. I loved it, and I think the reason I loved it is, and I said this in some of my videos, was I left wanting more? Yes. Would I have liked to even see more? Absolutely. But I don't feel like I saw evidence that the game is low quality or low effort, or that it's going to be like DLC, like you said, and so many people. To me, I thought what they chose to do, and I'll be curious if you agree with this or not. I think that they very purposely chose to show us the kind of thing that lets our imaginations and our brains and our experience with Breath of the Wild fill in the gaps and imagine what's possible outside of just showing us 4 abilities. Because we only saw 4 abilities. For all we know, there's 6, 8, 10. I mean, who knows what there is. They showed us 4 abilities, and they showed us just tiny little glimpses into them. They just showed us, like, here's the most base level example of what you can do with these things. And so, like we were saying, it's not a graphics enhancement that makes Tears of the Kingdom what it is. It's a scope enhancement by enhancing the scope of the game and including all the sky stuff, which is my favorite thing in the world. I cannot wait. And it's showing, and it's gameplay enhancements by changing what the abilities are, right? Forget the Sheikah Slate. Now we've got the Gauntlet thing, and we've got the Ascend ability, and we've got crafting, and we've got fusing, and it's so freaking cool to me. And so, yeah, they didn't blow the doors open because they don't want to do that. But I think they showed the perfect taste. I mean, perfect for me, and I think perfect for a lot of people. Obviously not perfect for everyone. Perfect for me to let me know, okay, it's got what I want. I want to go into the sky and just live there in this game, you know? So those are my initial takeaways. I loved it.
Yeah. Just a heads up. Ronnie Fazio asked me, yeah, Nintendo didn't. Capcom did apparently request that Nintendo increase the RAM for the Switch, so I think they went from 3 gigabytes to 4.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yes, guys, if you could like the stream, be super helpful. I see that we're at 80 likes. If we could get to 100, that would be amazing. Thank you very much.
100 likes. Yes.
Yeah, that would be sick. But you know, I agree, Rob. I think they intentionally gave us material just to kind of really sink deeper into speculation train. I remember at one point, I don't remember where or how, and I don't know who disagreed with it, but there were disagreements, as there always are. But I was arguing that a big part of Nintendo's marketing for Tears of the Kingdom is somewhat reliant upon the slew of speculation and theories about Tears of the Kingdom. I think that's a big part to it. And I think the way they handled that demonstration, all it did was stoke that flame. It pushed it. So, for example, I 100% believe that they confirmed Zonai in the demonstration on purpose. It was a very subtle detail, but it was clearly there. There was no debate. The name came up a couple times from the items. It said the name. Exactly. So there's no debate. The Zonai exist. It effectively confirms the years of theories that have been about the Zonai. So what does that do? It fuels the theories more. But then going more directly to your point about the gameplay itself, there was a moment where Aonuma, I'm paraphrasing here, but Aonuma said something to the effect of, I bet you can already imagine what you can do with these abilities. Like, he was inviting us to be even more imaginative about what we can do. And I think you're right that what they showed us with the abilities, by the way, perhaps a teaser for tomorrow's video, but the abilities I do think are kind of scratching the surface here. I think these 4 abilities, there is a lot more there. And I actually also agree that there are more than 4 abilities. I don't know if you saw this. You may have. But you know how the 4 abilities, there's the 4 different logos, right? They each have their own kind of logo. One of
the HUD?
Yeah, on the HUD. But one of them has a rune, right, that shows up as an emblem on Link's hand. And we've seen this emblem before. It's on the statue, and it's also in the, you know, that 7-second piece of footage they gave us when they delayed the game, where it's Link with holding the Master Sword and it's glowing and destroyed?
Yeah.
Well, that rune is the same rune as the recall ability. But here's where it gets really interesting. So because a symbol shows up on the hand, the recall rune, it implies there would be more runes there. And the other abilities are not runes. However, the pin set includes other runes, implying that, yeah, like what are those symbols for? And also, the Tears of the Kingdom OLED, the recall ability is on one of the Joy-Cons apparently, but not the other. It's an entirely different rune that's in the pin set. So, the implication being, there may be more abilities.
I think there is.
Yeah.
I totally think there is. Because, if anything, the reason I think there is because they showed us 4 in the gameplay. And I feel like they wouldn't show us every ability in the gameplay. So that's just one of a couple of reasons why, you know? I mean, at some point you run out of ideas probably, but yeah. So that's interesting. That's interesting evidence. I was obviously looking at the HUD and kind of placing together, oh, I can see the symbol for this ability. I can see the symbol for that ability. So I see how it's like slightly different from what Breath of the Wilds was. And my assumption is the gauntlet would change, excuse me, that the gauntlet would change colors or change whatever. I haven't myself looked into that. It sounds like you've already kind of confirmed that with the changing rune or whatever on the gauntlet. So
they also haven't shown us the abilities change though. Like, you know how like you'll see like in Breath of the Wild,
looks like change.
Right? They intentionally cut away from that each time. So I don't know if that like when it comes up there'll be like blank squares, how they had it in Breath of the Wild, they're suggesting more. So they may be hiding that.
Yeah, I think probably. Yeah, and so that's where it comes back to the gameplay being the hook to this game that I think some people maybe forget to allow themselves to be excited for when just the gameplay has to change, you know? Now, to add on to that, though, something probably worth talking about is Hyrule itself, which has been one of my favorite things to dive into, right? Because it's one of the biggest mysteries I think we truly want to know. And for me, it's been one of the things I've cared about the most. The main thing has been the sky. But outside of that, it's like, okay, what are they doing with Hyrule? And Aonuma also said, and I will also paraphrase, that it is a changed Hyrule. That the map is, it's what did he say? Like
he's emphasized it a few times.
But it's
like
he did. I think at the beginning and the end.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact wording from the demonstration, but I know it's been referred to as the unknown Hyrule before.
Yeah.
But something,
exactly.
but in the demonstration, he said something to that effect. The changed Hyrule, the mysterious Hyrule, something like that. He says.
Yeah, very exciting to me, and it's exactly what I thought they would have to do. It's like they can't. I mean, I had some predictions on how it might change, and I think that those have since been proven wrong with new footage. But one thing,
what theories did you have? I'm curious.
So the theory I had, this is going back definitely before the Nintendo Direct, so maybe at the end of the year or early in like January. It was that the islands and everything in the sky could have been lifted out of the ground, and you know there was a lot of reasons to think that. One is just they just look like it because they've got this craggy kind of stuff, you know, like islands and all this dirt underneath.
Almost like puzzle pieces.
Kind of like puzzle pieces. And to me, one of the huge keys, too, was both of the first 2 teasers showed us that, to some degree, Hyrule Castle was lifting out of the ground. We never saw it flying in the air, to be fair, but it, like, lifted.
Right.
And, like, what a weird thing to show twice.
It was foreshadowing, at the very least, for Sky Islands.
Yeah, exactly. And so to me, it's like, okay, if there's anything to like Hyrule Castle lifting out of the ground, and we know that there's floating islands, and we knew even less 4 or 5 months ago, so it's like, why would there even be floating islands in Hyrule in a game that's a sequel to Breath of the Wild? And I was also like, okay, but also how do you change the map? Well, if they've lifted chunks out of the ground, not only would that put the sky to explore, but it would also change the topography of the map, because huge craters and sections and if a lot of time had passed, the stuff on the islands could be different than what it was when it was in the ground. And who knows what the citizens of Hyrule would have done over the course of hundreds of years or whatever in the sections and the craters that had been lifted out. So it's theory. And I went through some of the footage and I shared some screenshots, and I was like, maybe this is what it is. So I don't think it's completely disproven, but I feel like we know enough to know it's probably not that now. I mean, that's what it was.
I think there's, honestly, I think there's truth to your theory. Because we don't know what happened to Korok Forest. It's just gone. So there's this giant plot of land that's just missing. So what if that went, where did it go? Did it just explode? Did it get sucked underground? Did it get teleported elsewhere, or did it go higher up into the sky? You know,
Sky maybe.
and I'll save this for another day, but I have this crazy theory that maybe there could be something big happening with the moon. What happens if we approach Hyrule Castle? Does it maybe fly up? Maybe there's a big cutscene and doesn't actually let us get up there, right? Like they're showing it close to the ground, but what happens if we get closer? So
is that because of the shot in the last trailer from the Nintendo Direct where he's like standing in a window and looking at the moon? Is that what you're thinking?
That it is tied to this. It is tied to this long, slippery slope of.
Does it have to do with the blood moon?
Oh yeah,
and all that?
The blood moon is closely tied with this stupid theory I have.
Okay.
That I think I am now making a video on. By the way, I've been talking about this for a few weeks, and every time I talk about it, listen, guys, I know this is a dumb theory, but I just keep coming back to it for some reason. So
just do it, man, because it's only a theory. We're in the best time. We've only got 5 more weeks to do this anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I made my video, and a lot of people were. No one was really mean or anything, but a lot of people were like, I don't think that makes sense, and here's why.
Yeah.
But you can just. And then if you're right, you might be right. So
I said we were going to the moon. We're building a rocket ship.
You have to crack jokes about Majora's Mask though if you do.
Oh yeah,
it's mandatory.
No. Oh,
it has to be in there.
It's the project has been greenlit by the boss in my head, so it's happening. Okay. I've already been doing a little bit of research into Alien Majora's Mask music, so.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, just do it, man. Because I mean, like I said, this is the time to theorize, and in a weird way, we can tie this back to the gameplay stuff and the marketing and the mystery of the game, because. I will say, we loved the gameplay. You and I loved the gameplay. Probably most people watching this hopefully also liked the gameplay. And they did hint at the Zonai, right? So we got that. But I think the one thing missing, if Nintendo was to choose to give any sort of significant something before this game, it's probably something about the story. Not spoiling it, not showing everything, but like a true, like deep hint at the story. Think of the trailers to Breath of the Wild. There was like 2-3-minute trailers to Breath of the Wild. They didn't spoil anything, but they really showed us that there were stakes. They hyped us up. There were stakes. Zelda's crying. Link is running. Soldiers are marching. And like that kind of stuff. You can show that vague imagery, and we've seen a bit of it, to be fair, especially in the reveal trailer, teaser. And so I think they could get away without doing that, don't get me wrong. But I think if they wanted to do any more one thing after the gameplay, why not a 2-minute trailer that's like focused on the story without spoiling it? I think that would be nice,
Yeah. And, actually, let me ask you a couple things. I wanted to support your theory a little bit more before we move on. And I'll just say a couple other extra little things. There's a lot of holes in Hyrule. There's a lot of these malice holes. So could be chunks of land, and also the labyrinths, like the Lome labyrinths and stuff. Like there's these 3 giant maze cubes. We see giant cubes in the sky. They may be the same ones. So I'm just saying,
same one. Okay.
Part of your theory may not be totally off. It may not be that the Sky Islands are Hyrule itself, but there may be at least pieces of Hyrule that have gone up with them. So,
Yeah, I think maybe. Well, so in my last Zelda theory video, I also put out another theory. This was only a couple of days ago, where if you've seen, and I'm sure you've seen from the footage, because I'm sure you scoured it twice as much as even I have. But you know how and maybe you even know more about it than I do. There's those little beams of light. There's like 4 or 5 shots in all the footage we've seen of a little kind of tower thing.
Yep.
It's like a weird, and these beams of light.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's confirmed what that is, but I have a theory, and no one disproved it in my video, and it got a pretty good amount of views, that might be a way to signal or activate something, potentially puzzles or shrines or dungeons. That was my connection. That maybe those are activated from the ground and lift up into the sky above where those beams of light are. So that's another thing I'm kind of kicking around in my brain. I discussed it a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So,
my first thought on the towers is they resemble the Sheikah towers. They're different, but they resemble them.
Bit.
They do have like these spotlights though, which is interesting. Like it's almost like why are those spotlights there? What are they trying to alert in the air? That part's kind of fascinating. But I have seen, I think I've seen some of them lit with orange and some of them lit blue, just like the Sheikah towers, implying active or inactive, right? So there may be
Gotcha.
something to visiting them that's similar, and perhaps it could tie into your idea as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good to know that. I haven't noticed the difference in colors, and I'm also really colorblind, so I might have just missed it for that reason too.
super subtle.
Maybe
You
even
gotta like zoom
yeah,
in and yeah.
that makes me wonder if even the screenshots I shared. No one called it out in my video, but in the screenshots I shared, I'm sure I must have had both colors in there. But I also considered exactly what you're saying though, that if they operate similar to the towers in Tears of the Kingdom, they might have just changed the visual cue that the player can see from a distance, right?
Could be as simple as
showing
that.
lights and changing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it could be that.
I want to think
But
it's more though. I
me
want
too.
to think
It's such a
more.
weird choice. Like they
Yeah,
don't need to have those lights, and
yeah.
the lights to me tells me like,
They might even be
it just tells me
man-made. Because I
the
think
lights,
there's a
maybe.
big like restoration effort in Hyrule. So
Mm.
there may be a lot of just modern Hylian technology, which will be very basic, like wood and stuff. But I think the idea is that they were
So
trying to rebuild Hyrule.
what are your thoughts on if a significant amount of time has passed? Because I like to think it has.
I guess the term significant is relative.
I mean, I'd say like 100 years or more.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
I could be wrong, right? I don't know, right? But the reason I don't think so is because, well, one, Link and Zelda seem to be about the same age. Now, it's possible. Of course, we see them in the opening teaser, and it seems that there's an attack that transpires, and to me, my perspective is Link loses that battle. We're not entirely sure what happens with Zelda, but Link had that opening cutscene sets up the events for the rest of the game. So it's the inciting
I
incident,
agree.
and then Link wakes
Yeah.
up, is restored in some way. He has the hand armament change, and that's kind of where we start off, kind of similar to like the restoration chamber in Breath of the Wild. Um,
Mhm.
so there is somewhat of a time gap between the attack and when he's back to his wits, but so maybe there could be another 100-year slumber. That's possible.
That's kind of what I. That's what I
Yeah,
wonder. I don't know. I don't know
yeah.
if they're doing it, but you talk about the resurrection chamber, restoration, whatever it is. I can't remember. But the chamber, the sleeping
The
chamber.
chamber, the something of resurrection, it's something like
Yes.
that. But
Chamber of slumbers.
yeah, I don't think it's 100 years though. Maybe a few hours, a few days, a few weeks. And before that event happens, I think it's just maybe a few months. Because I mean, Zelda has a haircut, right? So it's assuming that they don't look aged, right? So at least within a couple years, if not less. And potentially, to your point, it could be 100 years in the future after the attack, but I don't think so, because when we go to the surface, we can see some people from the same world we explored in the past game. Like, there are some kids that were at the stable that are still kids. Beetle's still there.
The same kids?
The same
Was it-
kids. Same kids,
Oh,
same
man.
Beetle. Now, I mean, they could just be
I didn't
reincarnations.
notice people.
They could be just similar looking, right? But they look to be about the same. So
Well, to me,
yeah,
Beetle's the telltale. And if I, which one is Beetle featured in? I can't picture him.
he's
from
in the
the trailer.
demonstration. He's sitting down in the stable.
He was?
You gotta go like frame by
this-
frame,
it's
and
his
like
stable.
he's like
Dang it.
he's like very subtly there. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that kind of messes up that theory, because to me, I still thought that there was a chance that the idea could have been that some time had passed after the end of Breath of the Wild, hence maybe Zelda cutting her hair, but then they realize they need to slumber until they know the threat's going to come back or something, and so they choose to slumber together, whether that means same or not.
Maybe.
Whatever, you know what I mean? They're both
Maybe.
going to sleep, and they will be awoken when they're needed again, kind of thing. And they awaken because Ganon is going to be resurrected, and that's when they wake up after a long time to go underneath Hyrule Castle, and that whole thing goes down. And the reason it made sense in my brain was, to me, the passage of time is I think the best explanation for how Hyrule could be a different place.
Yeah,
That's the main reason I get hooked on it.
yeah.
But I
Let me-
can't lie, man. The Beetle thing kind of messes
Let
it
me.
up.
Well,
so.
well. The thing is, though, in the footage, we do see that there are some houses that have there's like foundations. Like, it looks like they are trying to rebuild some houses. So
Yeah,
there,
for
I
sure.
think there is a restoration effort, and we might see some new villages. We might see some reconstructed areas. Like, this stuff can take place within the span of a few months to a couple of years. Like, they can still have a lot of those changes. Now, they may not be giant metropolises, but there can be something. But let me throw this
Yeah.
theory out at you. Okay.
Mm.
Well, it's multifaceted, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I've already alluded to how there's like some like rebuilding already happening. We've seen evidence of it. When you factor that on top of the fact that at the end of Breath of the Wild, Zelda does say that they want to restore Hyrule and perhaps beyond, that's already kind of leading into this restoration effort. But it goes further because we've seen a lot of ideas it seems like Nintendo's kind of going back to from the development of Breath of the Wild. And with the Tarrytown quest, apparently they actually wanted to do more with that. And it was initially meant to be more extensive. So when you kind of consider that as well, and then you look at the Ultra Hand ability, how we can build stuff, and there's all these different like foundations for houses, and there's a lot of Hyrule that needs to be changed. And also, remember that comment about Aonuma a few weeks ago that some people said was a nothing burger, but he said that this world has to do with our imagination. With how
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have the ability to impact this world more so than the previous game. When you factor all that together, and then also the recall ability. So what do you think the recall ability is? By the way, this is tying into tomorrow's video as well.
So do you mean?
What do you what like just explain to me what you think the recall ability is?
Well, to me, like its use, when I think about it, it's like, how am I using it? I target an item and I'm reversing time on that item. Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So
like what if it's a house? Is that what you're thinking?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. All right. Now, some people might dispute this idea. I've seen some people argue that it's just reversing kinetic energy, which makes some sense because
something moving.
Yeah, because like also it seems to be like kind of like an evolution of stasis, and stasis had something like that too. But you could also it's kind of perspective though, because you could also argue with stasis you were still locking something in time and building up that kinetic energy. But with recall, I think it is a reversal of time, and we have a little bit of extra evidence. So remember how I brought up how that was that one scene with the Master Sword that Link is holding? We know he's using recall during that scene because it has the recall rune.
When he's holding the completed Master Sword?
The destroyed Master Sword, and it's glowing. He's using recall while holding the glowing Master Sword.
So you think he's going to repair the sword using recall?
I think it plays a role.
I think that's a really good theory, and I think that people so we don't know who's right or wrong, but I think people who immediately want to poo-poo it might be forgetting that time has played such an the manipulation of time has been such an integral role to so many Zelda games, including what is arguably now the most famous, which is the Ocarina of Time at this point, and Majora's Mask, a great sequel that manipulated time even more in a really fantastic, fascinating way. So I like that idea. I like that idea. I mean, it's okay. So you said you can specifically see the recall rune in that scene where he's holding the broken Master Sword.
Yes.
So that's interesting, and that's great because that kind of is what I thought recall was anyway. But there could also be something to the fact that maybe recall has more than one ability or more than one phase. Maybe you can upgrade your abilities, or maybe recall is different than a different time ability, and that could be one of the ones we don't know about, is one that more specifically targets an item or a house or a village. It's probably not that, but I think it's maybe an option on the table.
It depends how far they want to go. The cool thing about the thing is, recalling a single item is not as hard as recalling an entire town. Right, there's a different levels there, right? So, but point is though, I think the idea of using recall, for example, there's a lot of ruins in the Sky Islands. Like, what if you use recall on a destroyed construct? Kind of like how in Skyward Sword, you use the time shift stones to restore the ancient robots briefly.
So good, yeah.
So, there could be something to that idea, and it might be more limited because I don't think we're gonna do a thing where we do full-on time travel where we go to the past to Breath of the Wild. But I think the idea of using recall to selectively...
Age of Calamity took us into the past, so why wouldn't they just do that again?
Because I think it'd be very hard to just create a whole other Hyrule again. Well, it's been 6 years, so,
Mm-hmm. It's definitely true.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I kind of like about the repairing towns kind of idea? is I think that you could approach that two ways. One, it could be just like pretty basic. You get a couple side quests. Once you get the ability to do it, you just do it, whatever that looks like. Just real basic, like the side quests in Breath of the Wild. But there also could be, if they take it farther, if this is even something that they would be doing, it could be more of the main conceit. They could almost replace the finding of memories in Breath of the Wild, where there is 10 towns, and it's a pretty significant process. It could even include defeating certain larger enemies or bosses or solving a major puzzle to get the thing to take back to the person. And then, do you know what I'm saying? I'm feeling I'm being vague because we're just guessing, but the larger conceit of the movable plot could be the restoration of a certain number of towns, and it could be such a big project to do and require such a big amount of power that you can't just come across a town and just zap it and do it. What if you have to achieve a goal and you have to find those 5, 10, 15 towns throughout the world? Kind of like I think it was 12 memories, I want to say. So something like that. I don't know how that sounds, but that I could see them going that direction potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think having cutscenes tied to like restoring towns would be really cool. It'd give more incentive to build up the world. An idea I like is just, what if we can rebuild the world differently depending on the player, right? So my Hyrule might not be your Hyrule.
Oh boy.
You know?
Yeah. So that's a really awesome idea. Is that possible? Do we think that? I just wonder how many options could be, because then we start getting into like, you know, the PlayStation Dreams almost territory or Minecraft or something.
I mean, I think there's got to be some limitation there, right? But, you know.
I love that idea. I love that. Oh, man.
I'm just, I mean, it kind of just ties back to what Aonuma said about our creativity. You know, how we can impact and change the world. And with the abilities that they showed us, it's about changing the world. Well, I mean, Ascend is more about a form of platforming, but Fuse is changing the objects in the world, as is Recall, as is Ultra Hand. So 3 of the 4 abilities they showed, it's about taking resources in the world and making it your own in some way.
Yeah.
So
I like the idea, and I think they could give that level of customizability. How many syllables was the word I'm looking for?
Many.
But yeah, many. But they also need to keep the main thread of the actual story going, right? So why is the adventure going? Why is Ganon resurrected? Why are there islands? I mean, clearly,
what happened to Zelda?
What happened to Zelda? Everything you said, I think, is right. The beginning of the story is probably, whether it's been 10 minutes or 100 years, it's later, and Link and Zelda are going underneath Hyrule Castle for some reason to find Ganon's tomb or corpse or whatever. Maybe they heard something, maybe they're afraid of something and they want to double check. I don't know. They go down to double tap, basically.
Yeah, and it might be related to the missing Sheikah technology. Like, the Varucha stops working at the end of Breath of the Wild, so.
That was one of the
Divine Beasts.
The Divine Beasts, that was one of,
So that's like the only thing, I don't know. There's something that we don't know why they're down there. My theory has just been that, okay, well, the Sheikah technology stopped working. Why? Yeah. Well, let's go underground and find out, and then they find Mummy Ganondorf.
But why would you go there, though? I mean, you're right, but like, I'm asking the question, like, why would they write the story that they go to there, underneath the castle where Ganon is dead? It's an interesting prospect, and clearly while they're down there, Ganon's gonna wake up. I think Zelda's gonna get captured or taken or fall somewhere, and Link gets messed up. Hyrule Castle's gonna lift out of the ground, and I think we've seen evidence that malice, dark energy is going to be released into the world, and maybe that's part of what changes Hyrule.
Yeah.
And that's also why the time jump thing makes so much sense to me, or like the slumbering thing, like they get woken up after a long amount of time because they have to go under there. I don't know. I just feel like that must have something to do with it. So, but whatever the story is the thing we still just don't know.
Yeah.
You know, this whole kind of tangent came off of the idea of if they would even reveal any more conceit to the story and let us know, is the restoration of Hyrule part of it, like you think? And to me, that makes a lot of sense. Why? I mean, don't answer the questions, but like, why is Ganon resurrected? what does Link need to find? Why are there Sky Islands without telling us exactly why? Stuff like that, you know.
Yeah,
I hope that they give us a little bit more.
I want to see how Ganondorf looks. Like, does he stay in his mummy form, or does he kind of change a little bit? Because the voice that we heard, I'm pretty sure that's Ganondorf, but it doesn't sound like a raspy, dry Return of the Mummy kind of voice. It sounds like a person.
Kind of goofy. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of goofy. But it might not be Ganon though. You know who it could be? Is his lackey. There could be like a lackey is brought back, like a Zant or a Girahim.
Okay.
So if they do that,
Master Koga. We do have a voice for Master Koga actually.
Oh yeah.
But it could be a follower. Yeah, there's a whole Yiga tribe. Yeah, that's a good point.
It could be one of those weirdos who's like the main person in charge of bringing Ganon back, and I don't even remember what he said now, but it sounded like he was saying like an incantation or a promise to the one he's serving to bring him back. I'd have to listen to it again, so forgive me because I can't remember the dialogue. But you know, it could be something like that, and maybe that's the voice we heard. And
I would like to see like a lackey. That would be cool. I'd like that.
Yeah, it's one of those classic things that we've been missing. Like, we haven't had a lackey in a while. We haven't had a companion in a while. I think we'd all like to see a companion.
I think the green hand is tied to a companion.
Do you think it'll be like a voice, maybe, or?
I don't know. I don't know exactly how. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I do think it's tied. I think it's related. Now, I mean, it may be that the thing is, you could argue Zelda is Link's companion in Breath of the Wild because her voice appears to calls to him occasionally. Maybe Zelda doesn't die, and she's kind of like that voice in his head throughout the story. In Tears of the Kingdom, there's a few options. Go on.
Sorry.
I just know you're running out of time, so I wanted to ask you another question.
Oh yeah. Well, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay.
Because I do have a hard stop in a couple minutes.
Okay. Cool. So, by the way, guys, thank you for the super chats. I will be getting to them in a bit. Okay. And I'll just kind of go through the chat. I'll spend like a good half hour going through Q&A and everything. But I really want to ask you this. You've talked about us maybe getting like a story trailer, right? One that, you know, like a nice quality 3 to 3.5 minute trailer, kind of like what we got for Breath of the Wild a couple months before its release. And I agree we're getting at least that. But
okay,
what I want to run by you though is, do you think maybe we get this trailer? I don't know, maybe next week, within a Tears of the Kingdom Direct.
I don't know. I kind of don't.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be. Well, here's the thing, because next week is the 1 month. You know, we're gonna hit the 1 month.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
It's April 12th. So I don't know. I kind of feel like if they did it, it would be maybe in the back half of the month, maybe just a couple of weeks away.
Maybe. It does feel like they can push it up. I kind of feel like. Well, the other thing though is that I don't think they can actually, when I think about it, because the thing is, journalists, the big journalists will get a copy of the game. Media. Yeah, they will. They'll start previewing the game soon. It's going to be in their hands. So I feel, and I don't know exactly how this works, but I have to imagine the reason why the Xenoblade and Splatoon Directs happened about 4 to 5 weeks away from their respective releases is in part because they wanted to get that out there, give out their direct message about the game to the masses before the media started telling their version of the story. So yeah, you know, it's a great point. I think that here's the thing: we can't forget it's May 12th that the game comes out. So I would guess most people getting the game are going to get it 10 days to 2 weeks beforehand, which is basically the end of April. And personally, I could be wrong, but I've pretty quickly cooled on the idea of getting a full-on direct focused on this game. Sure. I mean, it's way too early for a regular direct. Maybe like a mini or something, but they wouldn't put Zelda in that, I don't think, anyway. So I think it's too early, or it's too soon. You're talking about like the general style directs. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that a Zelda direct, it's still kind of possible, but
I would say a couple days after the gameplay demo, I was like, I think I feel less good like this will happen. And I haven't heard anything. So I haven't heard anything about like it's going to happen or whatever. So I don't know that I believe that. To me, the trailer is the more ideal thing for them to do, in my opinion. Just guessing. So I think they could they do it next week on the 1 month? Yeah, I mean, they could. But Nintendo doesn't always celebrate those kinds of dates the way I think we think they do. Like, people talk about that stuff.
Yeah. I
so, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we want to think Metroid Prime is coming out on the 20-year anniversary. Turns out it wasn't. It was coming out 4 months later. You know? So things like that. We as fans pay attention to those dates, I think, more often than Nintendo does.
I mean, the Zelda anniversary is in February, but they celebrate the Zelda anniversary when the Zelda game comes out, which historically has been November.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about the 35th anniversary with Skyward Sword. None of that stuff lined up the way everyone was expecting. They just did it when they wanted to. So again, is it possible? Yeah, I don't know that I personally think it's next week. I would love it to be. I feel like if they do a trailer, I would think maybe in the back half of the month is just my prediction. But there's also a chance they don't do one.
Poor Advance Wars.
Oh yeah, Advance Wars.
Yeah.
Advance Wars. But we also can't forget the Zelda OLED comes out at the end of the month.
April 28th.
So maybe they time.
Yeah,
they could. And that's like 2. That's exactly 2.
And that's a week after Advance Wars. So maybe they push Advance Wars soon, and after a week from its release, they're like, oh, let's give Zelda another push.
I think that's the ideal final marketing time, is because that Switch OLED and the controller, that's a good marketing bump.
You know what? It wouldn't surprise me. And call me crazy, but I think we might even get 2 more presentations before the game comes out. Yeah, like I'm crazy.
Gameplay?
I'm nuts. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, if they gave us one 10-minute gameplay demonstration, why can't they just give us another this upcoming week? And then they do another, to your point, around the release of the OLED. And then all of a sudden, every 2 weeks leading up to release, they had a little 10-minute demonstration. And that's kind of how they handle it. Each one kind of covers another element to the game. Maybe this upcoming week they reveal underground exploration. And then the final 2 weeks they give us like, I don't know, something else. Maybe they show like Zelda gameplay or something. Princess Zelda gameplay. Well,
and then they huge.
Oh, it would be a Megaton. It would be a Megaton, all right.
Yeah.
And then they draw, and then they. So that's the gameplay demonstration. But at the end, they have another trailer, and it's the overview trailer. There you go.
Yeah. So I will say, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, so I can hop off this. Unfortunately, I hate to do it, but I need to.
We're good.
But I will say, I think your idea to me feels more plausible than just a regular direct at this point. And I want a direct. I'd be like, yeah, bring it on. Let's do it. I'm happy to see more. It's not spoiling anything to me. This game is going to be 1,000 hours. I don't think they can spoil this game, in my opinion. And so, now, do I see them doing a 10-minute gameplay every week until it releases? That feels a little heavy to me. But could they do 1 more, or maybe even 2? Yeah, I think they could do that. And they could give us an overview trailer in one of those, or they could avoid the overview trailer and just lightly touch on story things in the gameplay demo very carefully without spoiling stuff. So I kind of think, and this is all notwithstanding the fact that they also might do nothing. They really could be nothing but the Switch OLED releases and then the game. So that's also probably even most likely. But I lean more towards another gameplay demonstration, like you said. I think that feels more real to me.
Yeah, it's tough to quantify exactly. Like, I mean, obviously Nintendo's handling things differently here, right? So we can't use typical prediction patterns to really sort out what they're doing with this. I would like there to be a direct, in part because I've made videos talking about there being a direct, right? But it's just based off rumors, right? It's why we call them rumors, right? We don't know what's going to happen.
Normal conversation. Yeah, it's normal conversation and discussion. It always happens. Yeah.
But I do believe this part. I made the point earlier. I do think that Nintendo wants to get the messaging out there before other people get the messaging out there, and people will get the message. People are going to get this game. Media, right? And they will talk about this game. I think Nintendo wants to give us their message on the game before other people do. So that tells me
would break NDAs. Is that what you think? That they'd break NDAs?
Well, they're allowed to at least preview the game, relatively soon. So my take is that we're going to have substantial information, a lot more substantial information on this game at the latest 2 weeks out, which would be by the time the OLED comes out. Which might sound like I'm moving the goalposts here a little bit on the April 12th thing. So this is, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I am also kind of thinking, man, whatever videos they make now might be irrelevant come April 12th, just because of the rumor.
Man, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I know that feeling sometimes.
Yeah.
I've had to delete and not post videos that became irrelevant because I don't know how you do things. I think it's probably similar. I usually make videos like on one day, and then I'll have them scheduled to post the following day. I very rarely post same day unless I can with my work schedule.
Unfortunately, lately I've been on the same day thing. Like I finish, I post. But that's just because I had to. It's because I had to move, and then I had to do packs. If it wasn't for those things, I would be finished the day before, or even like kind of create a little bit of a backlog unless there's news to report on. That's where I would like to be, but right now I haven't been there because of just everything I got going on.
But nothing wrong. I mean, you're doing great, so it's at least it's not hurting you, right? So that part's good, and the videos are quality, and they're getting views and subscribers and stuff. But I will say, just to this point, and then I really do have to go as much as I love talking about this stuff. I've had to do that where I've made a video a prior day, and I'll finish by like 5, 6 o'clock my time, based on if it was a weekend or if I did it on my lunch break or whatever. And then it's not going to go live until sometime the next day, like midday or whatever. But something happens that ruins it. And so I've just been like, well, I don't get to post this now, and I've missed out on a video. So that stuff, like to your point, it definitely can happen.
I've canned projects before, though. I've had whole recordings. I'm like, all right, this is it. And then, something comes up, and, before I know it, it's like, yeah, this is not good.
Imagine a couple weeks ago, and the people watching hopefully saw this, but you and me and Super Metal Dave and Joey made a Metroid video, a podcast. It was like an hour-long video, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And that was about 4 or 5 days, I think, between recording and it going live, which will happen a lot of times with pre-recorded podcasts. And like that's enough time that if Nintendo was going to be wild and have a reveal trailer for Metroid, it would have made that whole conversation totally moot. Yeah, that could have happened.
And I think. And what's interesting that some news did happen between recording and when it went live, and that was the Pokemon leak. The Pokemon Presents had happened then. Yeah, so and it I mean, granted, because of how convincing the Pokemon leak is, it added a little bit more kind of like fire to the Switch 2 conversation, which
the next gen part of it for sure.
Which we did touch on in our discussion, but I mean, I think ultimately our point still held. Even if we 100% believe the rumor, which again, still a rumor. So but
it is still a rumor.
Yeah, but still, sometimes things happen. Another one, I know you got to go, but the art book. We're not talking about spoilers on the art book.
I almost brought it up. I almost was going to bring it up earlier, and without spoiling. But anyway, go ahead.
But what I was going to say is, I had been working on a dungeon, on Dungeons and Tears of the Kingdom video for days. Like I was spending a lot of time on it, and the art book leaked the day before I was going to release the video. And I had been working on it for a while, and I still published the video when I planned on publishing it. And I got attacked. People accusing me of spoiling what was in the art book. It had nothing to do with the art book. It was not at all related.
You and I kind of even talking about that a little bit or something. Yeah. And I think that's so silly. I also have, and this is, I mean, it's not a spoiler, but I have I have slightly different interpretations of some of that stuff from the art book images. Doesn't mean I'm right or wrong, but my interpretations, I think, seem to differ from other people.
Sure.
Because my last Zelda video was about dungeons or shrines and puzzles and the approach, and some people kind of brought up the art book, and I'm like, well, maybe, but I don't know that I believe it the way you do.
Yeah.
So we'll find out in a month.
Yeah, nothing in that book is even necessarily concrete, to your point, right? So even if you're trying to avoid, and we're not talking about the contents here, but if you did see something said from someone somewhere, it's not 100% set in stone. So
absolutely the truth. That is the truth. Okay, I have to go. I'm sorry.
All right.
Because I'm having fun, but I do have to go.
All right, guys. Make sure to subscribe to Rule to Review. Rob, he's a great friend, great YouTube channel. It's linked in the description below. Mm-hmm. But have a good night, buddy.
Yes.
See ya.
Yeah, you as well. Enjoy the super chats. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Andres. I
appreciate
appreciate being back on, man. It was good to chat.
Awesome. We'll do it again soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye. All right, let me adjust the format here. You probably see like just like a slit of my face right now. Give me a second. All right. Oh, you can kind of, it still works. I think I can make this. There we go. All right, so I'm pretty sure what's gonna happen is that after a few minutes, Discord's gonna be like, "Hey, you can't be by yourself on camera." So, But can you guys hear me? Yeah, you guys can hear me. All right, cool. So, but yeah, we'll just do a few super chats. We'll do a Q&A for about half an hour. I know I haven't been able to talk to you guys throughout the stream for that much, but we're going to do that now. So any questions or thoughts you want to put out there, please do so. But let me get to some chats I missed from before. Okay, so Taker610 earlier, thank you for the super chat, Taker, said, Deku Tree, F this shiz, I'm out. Right? Yeah, Deku Tree probably saw Calamity Ganon and just booked it to the sky. He brought out his rocket and just launched up. Jacko Mac was a super chat from earlier as well. Thank you very much, Jacko Mac. As Rob knows, I just recently got a Switch, having not played Breath of the Wild yet. Does Tears look to be a direct sequel? Could I play out of order? So, Tears of the Kingdom is a direct sequel, but the way the game will shake out, if you want to play Tears of the Kingdom first, I think you can. I don't think you have to wait. That said, if you're, I think if you played Breath of the Wild now, it wouldn't ruin your experience with Tears of the Kingdom. Now, some people might argue that if you don't play Breath of the Wild and then you play Tears of the Kingdom, like if you haven't played Breath of the Wild and you play Tears of the Kingdom, the shock of just how massive the world is might be mind-boggling, right? Because Breath of the Wild is already a huge world. It's ginormous. And kind of like, imagine, and they've been working on this world for 6 years after release, right? Building upon it, adding layers to it, things we don't even know about yet. I can tell you my theories, but we don't know what they're doing. But obviously it's had its own dedicated Zelda development cycle to stack on top of what Breath of the Wild is. So if you just jump straight into Tears of the Kingdom, from a gameplay perspective, it might be sort of just mind-boggling how massive the game is. Even Breath of the Wild itself is a massive game. Going beyond that, though, let me see here. Yeah, I think in terms of story, I wouldn't. My take is don't worry about it. I think every Zelda game is meant to be standalone. Like, you can go and play Majora's Mask before Ocarina of Time, and there are some story elements that link them, so it might be interesting to go back and play Ocarina of Time afterwards so you can understand those links. And I think the same will apply with Breath of the Wild, but I don't think you have to, and I don't think it'll ruin your experience in any way. And as I just discussed, in some ways, it may enhance your experience because of that shock of just how massive the world is. So, however you choose to do it. Being able to play Breath of the Wild fresh, though, in lead up to it, might be kind of nice. King Frost with a super chat. A frost and a flame. Thank you. Fire and ice. Much appreciated. Thank you, King Frost. Jan Vav. Sup, Andre. Sup, chat. Thank you for the super chat as well. Very much appreciated. But let me now just kind of catch up the chat. I know you guys some of you guys brought some stuff up. So, Guy You Don't Know added me earlier. I don't doubt the game's quality, but everything I've seen of Tears of the Kingdom doesn't convince me it's inherently worth more than Breath of the Wild, like Nintendo's implying. It's left a sour taste in my mouth. Yeah, I do think the set, like, if you want me to tell you just like, straight up what I believe, my first thought is when they announced the $70 pricing, to me that was saying, oh, this is Nintendo transitioning to next gen. And Tears of the Kingdom is part of that. It's the biggest game on Switch. If there's a game that's going to be on Switch that can get away with a $70 price tag, it is Tears of the Kingdom. And I don't disagree with what they said about it being a case-by-case basis. I'm sure there are still going to be games that will be less than $70 moving forward. I mean, we've even seen not every Nintendo game that's published is always $60. Prime Remastered was $40, you know? So I think it kind of goes both ways. I also wonder if maybe they announced it Prime Remastered then and they published it for $40 as a way to kind of soften the blow of the $70 Tears of the Kingdom price tag. They're two separate things, and one's going to sell a lot less than the other, but I do kind of wonder about that. I do think that Tears of the Kingdom is going to be considered a very content-rich, high-quality game. So it's not going to be a scenario like there's been some high-profile $70 games that have come out and been glitchy messes or not very polished. That's not going to be the case with Tears of the Kingdom. It's going to be a very polished, massive game. So if there's any game that would warrant that price, it would be that. And when it comes to talking about money, it's always a very controversial thing. So I'm just going to leave it at that. It is what it is. You choose with your wallet, right? If Tears of the Kingdom sales suffer, then Nintendo will take note. Moving on with the chat here. Charles still added me earlier. Infinite battery at the end, and we do, in fact, some kind of Zone A rocket. Build some kind of Zone A rocket. Yeah. I do think the battery is 100% being expanded upon throughout our experience. Maybe it could tie to the Tears of the Kingdom. Every tier you get that. We do see, like, there's this little side thing that Link has on him, on his person. It's like the little green little tubes, the dials. Or vials, I don't know. That seems to be something you expand upon, and I feel that it is battery related. I think that Link only has one in the gameplay demonstration, and the battery power he has is 3 little bars. I think each little vial, green vial, is tied to 3 little extra bars. And actually, Monster Maze, Don, made a video on this, so I recommend checking that out. He covered this topic pretty well. So yeah, I would recommend that. But yeah, I think extending your battery power is gonna be a big part to the progress of the game. Let's see here. Yeah, recall on the sword. V-Smoke, I think because the Switch emulation has gone so good, it's going to force Nintendo to bring out the Switch 2 within this year. Interesting. There is definitely a lot of piracy that goes on. Mike Odyssey, I don't know if you're still in the chat, buddy, but thanks for coming by. Apparently, Mike Odyssey will sing. We hit 100 likes. We did hit 100 likes recently. So, Mike Odyssey may be singing. Which, by the way, if you are new here, you could subscribe. We're trying to hit the 25K, and more likes are helpful. It is appreciated. But only do it if you enjoy the stream and my channel. I do not ask people who do not enjoy it to do that, because that would make no sense. Thank you, Bigger Reality. I'm glad you're enjoying the discussion. Darcy, you don't think we should discount third parties? I'm not saying we should discount them. I mean, there's some amazing third-party games. I'm just simply, I think earlier when I was talking about third parties, I was more kind of speaking to the point that I wonder how much Nintendo values the big AAA third-party games that are coming out for their platforms and making sure their hardware is strong enough to have those day and date. Like, that's all I was really kind of questioning. Like, how much does Nintendo think that it's worth getting out extensively more powerful hardware at the cost of everything else they do, like the handheld form factor, battery life, power consumption, release timing, all of that. So, I want all that, and I think would be valuable. But to what extent? I mean, obviously Nintendo is making their own decisions there. Let's see here. Let me get back to the more recent chats. Okay. Thank you, BRX Arthritic. Very much appreciated. Yadvav, Andres, your mind and intellect is on another level. Ever thought of medical or law school? No. No, because that would be boring. I don't know. Thank you. I consider myself an idiot. So, it just depends. I think everyone has strengths and weaknesses, Joy CJ, you just got back from vacation. I hope you enjoyed your vacation, and thank you for the congratulations. Yes, I am happy I've gone to 20K. The goal's hit 25K by the time Tears of the Kingdom comes out, but I'm happy I've gotten this far. Like, the growth we've had in the channel has been great, You know, I mentioned earlier in the stream that, you know, my goal is to be a full-time content creator because this is what I love. It's been tough. I can't guarantee that I can do this kind of content forever, but signs are very promising. The growth on the channel has been very promising, and I have you guys to thank for that. So thank you. AB James. It seems like some sort of Zone magic or fluid or the green stuff, and maybe that new green gem we saw in the Hinox we can melt down to create the fluid that powers the batteries. Ooh. That's interesting. Maybe we can break that down for some Zonite magic. That is very, very interesting. Joyce J asks me, "You're definitely not an idiot." Thank you, but have you seen my moon theory? You might disagree after I make that moon theory video. I'm gonna be the fool. I'm gonna be the fool who believes we can go to the moon in Tears of the Kingdom. I will dare. You know, I think I gotta do it now. I think I actually gotta make the moon video. I just hope I can make it good. Samuel A with another super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat, buddy. Samuel A says, "Here's another one of my crazy theories. There's underwater exploration, and you swim far down, and heat starts to affect you. You reach the Earth core." Oh, dude, I love that theory. I love that theory. That makes tons of sense. That makes tons of sense. An underwater volcano. Nintendo, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. You gotta give us that underwater volcano. You gotta give us those heat shafts. That makes a lot of sense. Man, that would be so cool. Yeah, I honestly hope so. There is a little bit. I haven't confirmed this yet, so I probably shouldn't say it. I probably shouldn't say this with conviction. But there is something that I saw that makes me want to think that there might be a little bit of extra evidence for underwater exploration. We've already talked about the Ascend stuff. And there's some Ascend stuff I'm going to be talking about tomorrow for tomorrow's video. But there's something that I noticed that I want to confirm. I'm going to pull up the gameplay demonstration, and then we'll see from there. But okay, interesting. That's interesting. I literally searched Tears of the Kingdom. I see my video there. And then also I saw Nate's this video. He's using the thumbnail for the presentation, so I thought his discussion was the presentation. Okay, here it is. All right. Let me pull this up for you guys. There's something I want to point out that may tell us a little bit more about what may be in the game. And again, I have, this is one of those like passing thought things that I haven't fully thought of yet. I haven't like analyzed it, so this may be nothing. Okay, I don't know. We're gonna find out together right now. All right. So turning off annotations because I don't like seeing the watermark. All right, and I don't remember exactly where it is. I'm going to speculate. It's in 2 points. It's either when he's going up or when he's going down because we can see a lot of Hyrule. I'll turn up that. All right, so let's see here. Let's wait for it. Okay, so I'm looking in the background for a giant like the Nazca lion things. I believe we see one. Yeah, it's not this part. It's when Link is falling. I believe we see one that's extending out of a lake. So now, while this wouldn't confirm anything, it's not that one. When I see it, I'll know. Let's see here. At some point, it's gonna start to tilt up, and we'll be able to see some mountainsides. Okay, I'm looking. I'm about to be made to be out to be an idiot because I didn't see anything. Wonder maybe it's in a trailer. Maybe I'm wrong. I will point out there's a random structure over here we can see, which is kind of neat. It's not that one. I guess we never see it. Maybe it's in it's probably, if it's not here, it's in the trailer. Basically, you know, when I'm editing videos, like I look at, you know, like the footage frame by frame sometimes, and there's just certain things I notice and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And here, yeah, I don't think it's here. I don't know. I'm looking. Is that a Nazca line over there? I think you guys can see my mouse, right? It's by where the Sheikah area is. There's like some, or it could just be a structure. I'm not sure. There's also that. It's weird. There's definitely no Deku tree, by the way. You can't see it at all. There's another Nazca line over there, but that's on the surface, not in water. All right, I don't see it here. So, by the way, there you can see very clearly the coordinates, which is pretty cool. And I also want to say this dash almost looks a little off center. So I feel like the implication is this might be the negative. Just that this could be negative 1,577, but we can't confirm that. Well, it might be if we look at like direction. But anyways, let me see if I can look at the Tears of the Kingdom trailer 2, because that might be what has what I'm talking about. And I could be wrong, so please bear with me. If I'm wrong again, I'm sorry. I'll prove that I'm an idiot. Confirmed. All right. Let's see here. I'm looking. It's a shot. I know it's a vantage point where we can see like Hyrule off into the distance. That's off into the distance. It's not there. Is it here? No, I don't see it here. Okay. Oh, it could be somewhere around here. Oh, okay. This is different. It's different. Not the same thing, but check this out. Those dark lines we've seen, I think we can kind of see them. Oh, snap. I've never realized this before. I don't know if this is new information for you guys, but we can see the dark lines hitting a mountain almost. I mean, we don't see exactly where they connect, but we see them from the Sky Islands, and we see them hitting the ground. So there's another shot where we see them high up in the sky, and we see them connected to the ground here almost. So, it's nothing major, but it's something to kind of ponder upon. But not what I was looking for. Well, that light, notice how as you see Link gets closer, the everything lights up more, so it's kind of like the game's loading in the surface. Okay, it's not this one. It might be a. There's a. By the way, there's a cave right here. If you guys had not noticed that, there's a cave right here. Okay, is there anything in this terrain? We got actually a pretty good look at a lot of Hyrule here. It's nothing here though. It's not this. I might just be wrong. I don't see it here. It's not there. There's gonna be another montage soon. It's the Great Plateau. It's not there. It's not there. It's not there. These are where the other dark lines are, by the way. We weren't able to see them hitting terrain, but with that other little mini discovery, we saw that they do kind of hit the surface, which shouldn't come as a shock, but it's nice to kind of see that. It was a surprise. It was a surprise to me. I hadn't seen that before. Okay, so what I was looking for is not in this not in this part of the trailer. But I didn't check the beginning. I'm almost done. Just checking here. But when I'm seeing things. Look, there's another one of those Zonai shrines. I think they're shrines, by the way. I'm looking for another one of these. But I think I see one at some point. Man. I'm looking. This is a giant Zonai shrine. The castle. It's not here either. You know what? I think I'm just a fool. I can't find it. If I find it, I'll post it. I'll post it for you guys so you can see. What trailer? Maybe it was a pre... I'm not going to look at it another trailer unless you guys tell me to. Wait. Was that it? I don't think so. Okay, that's another Nazca line, but that's not the one I was looking for. There's one that I saw somewhere that I thought was coming outside of water. Anyways, not in this trailer. I'm not sure which one it is. I apologize. I'm just going to stop looking for now unless you guys want tell me. If you guys know what I'm referring to, you can tell me and I'll point it out. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Looking here at the chat. I'm looking through the chat to see if any of you guys know what I was referring to. All right, I'm just gonna get to the questions. All right, so Yod Vive with another super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat, Yod. Yod says, Andres, what do you think the DLC for Tears of the Kingdom will be? It's a really tough call because the game hasn't come out yet. We don't even know that much about Tears of the Kingdom. However, I do think that because of how late Tears of the Kingdom is coming out to Switch's life cycle and with the Switch 2 on the horizon, I do think that they're planning the DLC cycle for Tears of the Kingdom to line up with Switch 2 in some way. So I speculate that there will be an extensive DLC adventure that will come out alongside a graphics enhancement patch for Switch 2. I'm not saying day one, I'm just saying at some point during the Switch, early on to Switch 2 life cycle, that will release. And I don't think that's too far. But it'll still be, I don't doubt it'll also be on Switch, just for the record. But I think there'll be more of a substantial adventure. I think the DLC we got in Breath of the Wild was one of Nintendo's first forays into handling DLC with one of their major games. And I think since they've learned, you see how they kind of handle DLC for some of their major games now, like the Xenoblade series and the Splatoon series. They add actual adventures, actual campaigns. And you look at other open world games like Witcher and Horizon, they add actual adventures and areas to explore with their DLC. I think the same will happen with Tears of the Kingdom. And it could be something very easy. They could just introduce a whole other massive sky area that's like its own terrain to explore, like a massive area. Or maybe a giant turtle. It just comes out of the water and it's like a giant island off the coast that we can explore. And it causes some changes to the normal map as well. Like there's things they can do. But I think another adventure would basically be a big new area to explore that has its own story, its own independent thing. I kind of see something like that happening. Yeah. Let's see here. Thank you, Charles Riddell. I'm glad you appreciate the look. Yeah, I could see the DLC being Majora-liked. That would be interesting. Like a Termina kind of situation, yeah. Oh, Drew Mello. Maybe we'll fly to the moon in the DLC? That's an option. That would be a fun option. Having Hope 5, I also have a hope for dungeons, let me tell you. I think they're there. Samuel A. with a super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat, Samuel. Samuel says, just thought of something else. Final battle, we fight Ganondorf in the Sacred Realm itself in a light arena and finish the job for good with the sages. and finish the job for good with the sages. I gotta reread. Final battle, we fight Ganondorf in the Sacred Realm itself in a light arena and finish the job for good with the sages. Yeah, I mean, that would honestly wouldn't... It would be very much like previous final battles in a way. The sages seal Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time. We fight Demise in an alternative realm in Skyward Sword. Like it's like an arena, like we fight Ganon in an arena in Wind Waker. Twilight Princess, Link just kills him. So also Link kind of just kills him in Wind Waker too. Yeah. I do like the idea of finishing him for good. My ideas for the end battle of Ganon are a bit more hectic, but we have seen evidence the sages will be involved in some way, or at least we have some reason to speculate. We don't know for a fact the sages will be in there, but I think it's a good chance the sages are involved because of the 7 tiers, 7 sages, 7 heroines. So I think there's something to that, including, and I think it does also support the idea of dungeons, just for the record. The Odd Vav with another super chat. They owe us dungeons. At least 9, please. I think there's 9. I legitimately think there's 9, and I'll explain. I've explained this before, but I think you have a dungeon for each sage, so that would be 7, right? However, there's the 8th heroine in Breath of the Wild, and we've seen that the 7 heroines pertain to sages. So, the speculation here is this. Because they're showing evidence of an 8th heroine in Breath of the Wild, which would be an 8th sage, considering that we have this whole Zonai civilization that's now been confirmed to be relevant in Tears of the Kingdom, that might tie into the 8th sage. You got 8 sages, you got 8 dungeons. And then for the 9th dungeon, the final boss has to have a dungeon too. It's always like that. It might be different from the other ones. It may not have the exact same formatting, but it will effectively be some type of dungeon. So, yeah, I actually agree with the number 9. I don't know that. It might just be 4. Or they might just do 4 and then final boss again. And the whole 7 thing is just baloney. But I'm optimistic. We'll see. LR, I need 120 dungeons with at least 4 water temples. There we go. That's what it's about. Joy CJ added me. Hot take. There is no DLC. Think about it. If this story is set to wrap up and break the cycle, no need for DLC and could explain the $70 price point. So, when I think of Nintendo doing DLC, it would be content that would be done after the game is complete. Totally 100% complete. But you could be right. I mean, maybe they'll have the Tears of the Kingdom incorporates literally all of their ideas that they just couldn't possibly fit in anymore, and they just don't think it's worth it. But most major Nintendo games get DLC, and with a Switch 2 being on the horizon, I think that adds more reason to offer up DLC. But maybe they wait. Maybe they don't announce DLC for a while. Maybe there's a bit of a gap there. Think of it like this. They added DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I'm happy about that. It's more Mario Kart. So, if they add more Tears of the Kingdom, I'm happy with that. Like, I'd be okay with that. But it has to be more, beyond the typical development cycle. And I'm okay with them not announcing DLC for Tears of the Kingdom for a good while. Wait half a year, maybe even a year. I'm okay with that. I don't need it to have to be immediate. But I think with the long gap that we're going to see between Tears of the Kingdom and the next major Zelda, if we follow the pattern, we could be looking at another 6 to 7 year development cycle. I do hope it's shorter. I don't think it should be that long, but every time they take a little bit longer. So I think there will be DLC at some point, but I do agree that they should make Tears of the Kingdom feel whole, complete, with no leftover ideas. And maybe you're right. Maybe that does lead to no DLC. We'll see. Samuel asks me, imagine if Link puts on Majora's Mask and somehow throws the Blood Moon at Ganondorf to kill him. There you go. That'll take him out. The entire weight of the moon. Zach's Dull of ASMR. Strong chance for a trailer or some sort Wednesday. So we've reported on a rumor. I made a couple of videos on it because the second video was just pointing out that some things in the initial rumor proved true. But as many have argued, the things in the rumor are things that could have been predicted. So it's hard to say for sure the rumor is valid. But there's a rumor out there that has some credence, and it supports this idea that there will be a Tears of the Kingdom Direct this Wednesday. If we get a Tears of the Kingdom Direct this Wednesday, then we know the rumor's true. If we don't, then we know it's fake. So, I don't know what you want to. I don't know how to quantify a strong chance, because I don't want to build up expectations for no reason. But I'll tell you this: I personally am anticipating an announcement. I don't know anything. I haven't heard anything, so this is just pure speculation. I am anticipating an announcement just because of my content plans. Like, there's gonna be content regardless, but I'm just kind of having the back of my head, okay, like, what can I put, you know, like, I don't want to invalidate, you know, like, something like that. Like, I want to make sure whatever I put out is relevant. So I take it seriously, the possibility that it could happen. And this part I do feel good in saying, and, you know, people can disagree, but I do feel good in saying that, as I said earlier with Rob, we're going to get substantial information on this game before it comes out. And I would say that comes sooner than later. I think the latest we see that is 2 weeks before release. So given that next week will be just a month away, I think, you know, within the next 2 weeks, two and a half weeks, we're gonna get another update on Tears of the Kingdom. So yeah, it's not too far off. Let's see here. Taker added me earlier. I'm getting to it now. If we start in the Sky Islands, like some have suggested, how soon can we land on Hyrule Castle? Will it have a barrier? Well, we have seen a lot of malice coming around it, almost like giant tendrils. It's possible that as we approach Hyrule Castle, those tendrils, that malice may block us from entering it. And the only way to get to Hyrule Castle is by clearing the malice. And perhaps the only way to clear that much malice is by going underground and doing some significant dungeon work. So that may have something to do with it. I also think that Hyrule Castle might not be where the game ends this time. That's where it ended for Breath of the Wild, but why are we going to go to the same place again to end the game? If we do, they would have to do something substantial to change it around. So maybe we go there and it explodes, or it flies higher up into the sky if we approach it and it like activates a cutscene. Like, maybe Nintendo's hiding the fact that it goes all the way up into the sky. What if my theory about the moon is correct and Ganondorf is in the castle, but it's only showing it somewhat suspended in the air because they intentionally designed that way for us to approach it, and when we approach it, there's this big cutscene that plays out, and all of a sudden the castle explodes high up into the sky. And it's so high up, we can't get there normally. It requires some serious progression to get very high up there, and maybe that high up is the moon. I don't know. You know, so that's not gonna be part of the theory when I do make that video, which will not be tomorrow, by the way. It's a little bit further out. Anyway, point is that I don't know. I think that regardless of, if Hyrule Castle is something we can, I mean, we can't explore it, but I just have to imagine they're changing it around. and I speculate that it's not the end of the game. It's not where the final fight takes place. So even if there are some barriers of entry, I don't think it's the end. Or if it is, there's going to be something completely changed about it. Like maybe Gandalf gives it a makeover, or it's like actually just the portal to elsewhere, or it explodes. There's so many options. I expect something different from it. Having hope. You believe that we will go to the moon, Tears of the Kingdom. Thank you for your belief. Samuel, you're pointing out some lakes. Can you tell me what YouTube video had that on the lakes? I want to see that, because I just want to see more context for the explanation behind it, and I want to be able to find it myself. Brian Doe, I'm colorblind. Do the colors on the dragons really not match up with the 3 from the last game? Yeah, there's a 4th dragon. It looks like the colors do not match up. It's got like yellow and blue on it. It's different from Maedra. The shape though is comparable, but the color palette is different. So either something changed about the dragon, or it's a new dragon. Joyce J, you don't know, the moon theory is starting to grow on you. Maybe not for Tears of the Kingdom, but maybe Zelda 2030. We're going back to the moon someday. Just you watch. Let's see here. Yeah, if you could DM me on me, that would be great. Well, what I want to see is where can I find that shot. I just want to like look at it more closely, high res. So if you know where it appears in the, I might be able to find it if I look hard enough. Actually, I can't check here because of the setup of the stream. Actually, let me see here. By the way, guys, we're gonna end in about 10-ish minutes. I have a few things to do tomorrow in the morning, so I'm not gonna stay up too late here. But any final questions or something, put them out now so I can get to them. I want to check. Let me see if I can find it. What you're pointing out here. Okay, I see what you're sending, Samuel. So it's when Link is diving down. All right, let's take a look at that. Oh, okay. Thank you for the tip, Charles. It's super appreciated, buddy. Thank you. I do see the image you're sharing. So I guess the point is that we have an image of how it looks in. All right, I'm gonna save this image. I want to show people on the stream. How am I gonna do that? You'll see. You'll see soon enough. All right, let's see here. Just send Brand. I like whenever I have an image I'm gonna share, I just send it to Brandon. All right. Okay. Let me share this with you guys. All right. So the idea here is this is when Link is diving down at the end of the demonstration, and this is a somewhat similar angle, apparently. And what it shows is new lakes, apparently. I gotta say, this is fairly convincing. Because, I mean, the thing is that looking at it from this like, blurred, it's a kind of blurry image. So it's hard to say for sure if these are not, like, clouds. They look too dark to be clouds, though. It looks like water. I'm gonna pull up the trailer in a moment. And it's relating it to this scene here. And what I can say, I want to even argue with confidence that it's a slightly different angle. It's hard to get the exact angle, but it is close. And I believe where this red arrow is here is actually this terrain right here. And in here we can see it's mountainous with shadows. And in this part, it looks like it is submerged in water. So let's see if we can get a good look at that on from the video real quick. Let me pull that back up. So it's from the demonstration. It's when Link is diving. Alright, I'm gonna put it back up in a moment here. Okay. We're gonna find it. Okay. Let's see if we can spot that here again. There it is. It's right there. It's this right here. I'm trying to see if there's be a better angle. This is not quite the angle I was hoping for. But it is here. Wait for it. Okay, so I believe the idea, and then Hyrule. See, if you see over here. Well, first off, if you look at this side, you see these hills. This is where Kakariko Village is. Over here is the where I forget the name of the mountain, but it's the mountain where Nature's at. Hateno's to the right over here. I believe the Zora's Zora's around this area, and then over here is Death Mountain. And then that would mean to the left, this is where Hyrule Castle is. And then this lake is the one that had cave stuff. I mean, it looks like a lake. I mean, I think you're right. It looks like a lake. Actually, we're going to get a better... There he is. There's the castle. I don't think it's a shadow. I think it is. I think you're right. It looks like a lake. So with more bodies of water being added... it could possibly hint to the fact that maybe there is underwater exploration. Now, it's a subtle hint. May not be the case. Still got, don't assume for sure, but, it looks like there's more bodies of water. The footage isn't super high definition, so maybe we could misconstrue that. Maybe it's a cloud, but, or a hole instead of water, but it does kind of look like water. I agree. Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's see here. Tayfon54. You had a question from a bit above. Let me see if I can find it. All right. I think I found it. All right. So Tayfon54 says, Andres, what are your thoughts on Link sometimes being seen in his classic blue tunic and sometimes in his outfit like in the latest gameplay trailer? It confuses me. Yes. So my belief is this. The little tunic or like thing he has where it's like a garment over the shoulder, what he's wearing in the gameplay demonstration, what he's wearing with the Master Sword during the recall moment, that's all early game. That is all beginning of the game. And when he has a champion's tunic, that's just when he's more progressed. And we actually have a pretty good amount of evidence on this, actually, because when we see Link with his new garment from the sky, we can see the little Zonai tool thing that has the green little battery things, the little vials. He only has one during the gameplay demonstration, but when his blue champion's tunic in the other trailers, when you see him wearing it, it has like 4 or 3, so it's more progressed. So yeah, I mean, it's basically it. They're just showing different times in the game. Now, if you can wear whatever, if it's anything like Breath of the Wild, you can wear whatever clothes you want. But I believe the implication is that what we're seeing with the garment and the green, that is the beginning clothes we get, and it's like sky clothing. And then eventually, once we can put on the champion's tunic in the future down the road. Anonymous. SpaceX is now confirmed to be in Tears of the Kingdom. Source, Andres wants to go to moon and castles in space. Thank you. That is true. All true, all confirmation. It's just all fun and games, guys. The bigger reality. What is a song in the background? So I think I have on loop for this one. Right now, it's the music for Korok Forest and Breath of the Wild. And it just changed. I believe this one is Mystic Marsh from Pikmin 2. I believe. I like using this one a lot. It's good. It's good, like, background music for discussion. Drew Mello. Could we visit the Spirit Realm? The game seems to focus on the glowing green-blue color, which is said to be tied to the souls of the dead in the luminous stone description in Breath of the Wild. I think there's a chance, actually. I speculated that we may be traversing different realms. We have the surface, we have the sky. We think we pretty much know for a fact the underground. Underwater is debatable. But maybe there's more. Maybe there's another parallel world we can explore. Maybe not as big as the surface or anything like that, but maybe there could be something there. I do think there is something to the idea of lost souls in Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, it's in the title, Tears. Like, well, Tears of whom? That I think there. I don't want to say for. I don't want to make like an entire video saying, "Hey, we're going to explore a whole other fifth realm," but I think at the very least there is going to be a theme about lost souls and those who have passed on and helping them in some way. I do think that will play a role because we do see some of those blue flames in the underground section from the previous trailer. So I do think there's something to the idea. Also, the underground and the Sky Islands definitely give off heaven and hell vibes. So there's that to consider. A guy you don't know. If Tears of the Kingdom does end with a final battle on the moon, we'd then have both a dedicated Mario game and Zelda game on Switch that end on the moon. Okay, on Switch. Well, Majora's Mask ended on the moon, and technically it's already on Switch thanks to Nintendo Switch Online. But a new game, that would make it true. Samuel asks me, it's starting to make sense why Tears of the Kingdom is taking 6 years. Sky, underground, impossible underwater, changes to the surface along with crazy abilities, and that stuff isn't developed overnight. Not overnight. That's right, Nedweed. We got the unknown Hyrule. LR, it ended in the moon, not on the surface. That's different. Not on it, just in it. An interesting point. Brian Doe, what are your thoughts on the next game? I'm hoping for it to being the Breach of Demise, where Zelda is playable and we slowly transition her to being Hylia for the fight. I think there will be allusions to the idea. Can we see my cat before we end the stream? Yeah, she's been a little quiet today. Let me see if I can fetch her real quick. Anonymous. Video idea for you, Andres. What influence for Skyward Sword will possibly be in Tears of the Kingdom? Sky theme is obvious. Well, going back to what Brian Doe said, I think the Breach of Demise is there's something to that idea, because there's the opening cutscene of Skyward Sword. They talk about this kind of like this evil force erupting from the fissure. And what's interesting about that is that that's kind of what happened, is the malice is erupting from the ground, creating fissures throughout the surface of Hyrule. It's the trailer we saw recently for Tears of the Kingdom is very much like what happens in the Skyward Sword intro. There's like these evil forces attacking Hyrule. There's evil erupting forth from the underground, potentially hell. There's this force of demons. That Ganondorf is like a demon. I mean, he is a demon king actually, and he has these evil companions. So there's something to that. But yes, let me see if I can find Ruby. Give me a moment. She might be like in the next room. She might be hiding. She usually doesn't hide. So just give me one moment. The wrong thing. There we go. world wanted to see you. The world wanted to see you. Hold on. Don't run away. Let me show you. Let me show the world. There she is. She's like, what are you doing? Why are you picking me up? I choose to come when I want to come. Alright. Relax. You're good. You're good. It's okay. She's on my lap now. There we go. Yeah. Right there. You can't see her. Eh, it's alright. She's on my lap. I promise. Anyways. You might be able to hear her purr. Here. Purr into the microphone, Ruby. You can probably hear her purring. Okay. Don't make that much noise. She's an Abyssinian. Is she about... I think she... I haven't even thought about how old are you? So I've had her... Wow. I've had her for almost a year already. I gotta double check the date, but she's about maybe a little bit over a year, like a year, and she was born December of 2021. So she's still less than a year and a half old, but yeah. I'm not. No, we're good. We're good. We're good, Brian. But yeah. Anyways, guys. Thanks for coming by. Thank you for watching the stream. If you would like, it'd be super appreciated. It was a fun one. But see you soon. Have a good day or night. Whenever you watch this, you take care. I see Drew Mel is saying one thing. I'll read it real quick. Drew Mel, if you pay attention to the bell sound that plays while the logo is appearing in the trailer 2, it's the exact same sound that plays while King Rome's spirit is talking in Breath of the Wild. It's food for thought. But with that, I bid you all a good evening. Take care.